everybody, welcome back to HitPoint, a JRPG news show, an anime news show, a niche news show, a show where Baku and I get to talk about anything and everything that catches our interest and or ire. We stream live every single Sunday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be previewing trailers, talking about some leaks and maybe some rumors. We'll be interviewing a developer of a indie RPG that I enjoyed a lot, and I'm really excited to talk about it. Baku, how are you doing today, sir? How have you been?
Just a little tired. I've been in for anyone who might be following me over on Twitter. I've been in just back-to-back concert situation, and these old bones are not quite made for it. They're not quite what it used to be. So Friday night, I went to the Atarashi Gakko world tour. And they were in
As
my
one
neck
does.
of the woods.
Mm-hmm,
Ooh, they were so good. They were so good. They did Otona Blue. They did Fly High. They did all the hits. And I think they picked some songs I think that are more like more danceable tracks. I think it's one way of putting it, because you know, for the audience, right? Because they're not as well versed as Japanese, so they maybe pick songs that are less lyrically inclined, right? And I thought they are just like, wow, they're so pro. Even when the entire crowd does not speak their language, they manage to find ways to entertain and converse like without the language, like through their language barrier. I was just so impressed with their performance. And then the next day, I traveled down a couple hours to another city to watch the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth concert. So they picked out selected tracks from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Wait, have you played?
Yet.
You haven't
I
played?
have not. Yeah, but
Baku.
it's fine because
Baku.
I mean.
The music spoilers, though, Baku.
The music spoilers.
You're spoiled of all of the music in the game now. Oh my gosh, can you?
Yeah, I know.
This is a joke, everybody. This just in case our audience is on the outside of this inside joke. Don't get the joke.
Well. So a lot of the tracks obviously are just from Final Fantasy, the OG game, and they like remixed it into like for the remake Rebirth. So I didn't feel out of place. They had a couple of new tracks, and if anything, watching the symphony just made me feel like I should like get to the game sooner. Although I think I'm just gonna wait until the last game comes out and just play all of it, because if I play it right now, I'm just gonna forget like the intricate plots by the time the third game comes out.
But that gives you then a reason to replay, you know?
I don't have time for that.
And I honestly, I feel the same way though, because I haven't bought it yet. And I don't think a lot of other people have either, which is why it's doing so, like its score is so good, but so many people are just like, maybe I'll wait. I'll wait for the PlayStation 6 version.
Yeah, I want to binge all of it together, and because I feel bad story.
I feel bad for Square because I know that they really wanted to do well, but like it's the middle child, you know. It's you got it. Here's the thing about sequels of this nature is you release a game, it does pretty well, right? You sell, let's say, 1 million copies. You know, just pulling a random number out of a hat. You sell 1 million copies, and then you release a sequel that requires knowledge of the first. The maximum number of that game that you can possibly sell is 1 million units, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
because
speaking,
because you're going to have to sell it to people who already have the information. So that's the problem with like direct sequels. Falcom's just over here. They don't give a
care
about that idea. They're like, yeah, we only want people who have played all of them to really care. We'll go four games deep into our
One Piece. They don't care. We're 21 years in the making.
It is up to you to get familiar with the game to deserve the goodness. Anyways, that's going to be the tricky part, because in addition to all of this, if you know it's going to be a 3-parter, you're going to have people doing the thing where you wait on the sidelines, and that middle game is just not going to sell well until the third one comes out. And and even then, your max is diminishing with every release. So
absolutely.
Maybe.
Well, I'm hoping that they would do like a trilogy compilation. I mean, Square Enix has
and
done
sell them for
like
less money.
Kingdom Hearts, so I don't expect them to not do it. If anything, I fully expect that they would release some kind of compilation.
It would be ideal, yeah. But
and then they can make some of the losses or get someone to buy the first game and play that again if they haven't bought into it early, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we'll see. Yeah. So, but I do plan on playing through like what is it called? Crisis Core, and then because Crisis Core matters in this,
it does
a lot. They retcon a lot of things. So Crisis Core, and then Remake, Interlude, Rebirth, and then whatever the third game they'll call something. I'm sure.
All right.
Yeah.
So I do want to.
Your weekend?
Oh, my week's been pretty okay.
Before we move on, yeah.
Okay. I didn't get to play D&D this week. My DM had strep throat, and
you skipped D&D?
No, I didn't. The DM, it was pretty integral to the process, had strep throat. He couldn't speak, which is kind of also integral to the process. So
can you just type in like a text to speech and
just the voice of Stephen Hawking?
Yes.
Oh man, that would be phenomenal. In certain circles. But anyways, I'm just saying that I'm really jonesing for a really immersive experience, and but it sounds like my rogue might get, or not rogue, my bard might get to level up, and I'm very, very excited.
Ooh.
So, yeah. Anyways,
leveling up's a big deal in D&D.
It is. I know. We're going from level 1 to level 2, and I'm
first level.
I'm gonna multi-class. For anybody who doesn't care about this stuff, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna multi-class as a Hexblade Warlock and Hexblade Warlock Bard. Mostly going to be Bard, and it's going to be awesome.
All right.
Yeah. Anyways, nerding out aside, we get to do that tomorrow night. So, yeah, I actually have something to look forward to on Mondays, and it feels weird. Yep. That's all that's really in my world. Oh, and also I've been using Obsidian to like document everything and like create links. And have you heard of Obsidian?
No, I have not. What is this Obsidian?
Dude,
tell me about it.
Dude, okay, so it's open source software that allows you to take notes and link them together with Markdown, essentially. And you can it's like your own internal wiki, but every new note that you create is also a text file inside of some sort of nested folder that can then be crawled and like used for other things. Like some people integrate it with like locally hosted LLMs, which is pretty neat. But it is essentially a way to create a map of data, of notes, and interconnect your thoughts and ideas and stuff together. And it's just wildly like deep and friendly. Like it has plugins and stuff. Anyways, it's very cool, but only for probably the nerdiest of people. And I'm one of those, and I'm very excited to have put together a whole
is it like
character.
a web-based app, or is it like something you have to install and
it is
internal, external?
It is locally. It's a local thing. It is not web-based, although there are some web-based things that can emulate it online. It's weird, but yeah. It's cool. You should check it out.
I should, because I was thinking like maybe we could do something like that for some of the HitPoint items that we talk about. Because you know what, like we would cover a news item that and like a couple months back, like say Nintendo did a thing, and then a couple months later we might have some news that somehow related to it that makes for an interesting connection. But because I didn't remember that we talked about some stuff a couple months ago, then
I
we
know.
lose that little bit. Yeah, so that
It might
I
actually
see
be
a
really
use
good for
case
that.
for our show. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a sync version that I think allows you to work as a team, which is pretty sweet.
Cool.
Okay. Well, guys, before we go too far off the deep end, we do have a quick thing, a quick note. We will be doing some comment responses, and we'll be responding to super chats at the end of the show. But we're going to be changing up today's formula a little bit, feeling things out a little bit differently. So we're not going to dive into comments or the voicemail that we have until after. I'm acting like this is a big surprise. Until after we talk to Josh Halloran from Critical Games, creator of 8-Bit Adventures 2, who I think we should probably go ahead and bring him on. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's hit the buttons and do the thing. Hey!
Hey!
Oh, you're still muted there, Josh.
Oh, very professional.
There we go. Hey, you know what? That's a throwback. That was totally intentional because we've done that so many times. Just had to. It's like a tradition at this point, right?
I'm glad I could continue it.
The most professional podcast on all of YouTube.
Only the most.
Oh man, it is good to see you, Josh. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm doing well. Just a couple of days now until the big launch. So just feeling the nerves, feeling the excitement, and yeah.
The big launch of what exactly? Could you let us in on the details? I don't know if we talked about it yet.
8-Bit Adventures 2, a story-rich tribute to the golden age of JRPGs.
Oh man, and it's a big launch. It's coming to consoles now.
Yes.
We've already had a chance to play, and I've talked about it, I know, over on my YouTube channel, talking about my first impressions with the game when it first launched on PC back at beginning of 2023?
Yep.
Okay. And that was awesome. It was a lot of fun. And
thank you.
Yeah. Well,
no, I really enjoyed that video.
Thank you. It was my pleasure to play it. I'm sure it was way more work for you.
Looking at that CRT setup, I don't know.
That did take some doing. So now y'all will have the option, the ability to play on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, the Xbox One, the Xbox series of consoles, and the Switch. And it's already available on PC via Steam. So if you've been waiting and you're going to buy it on Steam anyway, I guess you could do that if you wanted to. But
yeah,
but you could also do it on console now soon on the 16th.
The 16th, yeah, so Wednesday.
Awesome.
At midnight in whatever time zone you're in. So,
man. So I guess let's I don't know. Yeah, that's what I was gonna do. Let's kick it off by together as a trio watching the brand new trailer that just came out announcing the awesome announcement. Let me see if I can find the button here. All right. Oh, and it just occurred to me, Josh, that I need to send you the Watch Together link. So
only the most professional of all podcasts.
Oh yeah, I've seen it before, so.
Oh, okay, fine.
If that's a problem. That's all right.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Are you
okay.
Sure you've seen this trailer though, Josh? I don't
know. About 500 times in the last month.
All right. Here we go. Ah, that music, man.
Oh, I'm loving all the throwbacks.
Dude, it is as a throwback RPG, this is more than just like lip service. Let me tell you.
Oh, I believe you.
Sorry guys, I think we're getting audio cut out. I can't hear the music and your audio was kind of popping in and out.
Oh, okay. That's all right. Well, I think that's probably Discord doing that. Darn you, Discord! Oh man.
Nice.
All right. Let's bring that back. Oh man. So that is the new announcement trailer for 8-Bit Adventures 2. coming to all kinds of stuff. As we already saw,
everything,
except for iOS and Android. Why? What do you have against phones?
So originally I was going to do iOS and Android like back in like 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
Apple kind of kept making that less and less appealing.
I feel that.
Because you have to basically pay like a consistent fee to keep your game up.
What?
On the store, and there's all sorts of things. They really made it more and more of a walled garden. And also sort of as the game developed, it was going to be harder and harder to get it running comfortably on mobile without like a lot of work. So
wow,
kind of shifted focus to consoles in the end.
Okay, well that's I'm glad that you did. Honestly,
Me too. I feel it's the right choice.
It definitely feels like it'll be very much at home on the Nintendo Switch and the PS5 and I guess the Xbox too. I guess.
No, honestly, like it's been great to actually see how many people have come out from like the Xbox side and been like, yeah, we want more JRPGs on Xbox.
I'm sure they do because there just aren't very many. Sorry.
Well, I swear I just added a fair few over the last couple of weeks, so I guess that helps a bit.
Oh man, but dude, I guess my casual flippant remarks about the Xbox aside, we've actually got a lot of questions to get through, and I haven't asked any of them so far, and I don't want to waste any of your time.
Wait, so, you haven't started yet? I thought they were
no, I've just been joshing here. All right.
Oh, I see what you did there.
I didn't even intend that. That's completely. Wow, yeah, I'm a bard in real life.
I'm a living pun.
All right, so 8-Bit Adventures. It took 9 years to develop. Can you share some of like the key challenges that? By the way, I phrase this as the team. Is this a team of people working together on this game, or is it just you? How many people are involved in this?
Yes, so for the sort of creation of the game, it was me, it was an artist, a composer, and a programmer. So basically a team of 4 for sort of the main bulk of development.
A whole quartet, if you will.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. No
Very
relation
cool.
to the game Quartet.
Oh no, of course. Yeah, yeah. So
are you summoning Ty? Ty just got summoned just now. Like Tyler is going to be like, hey,
by the way, who's your favorite Tyler? That's going to be my next question.
Which is your favorite Tyler?
Well, look, I know Tyler Meir the best, so
okay.
But Tyler's great too.
Sorry, all of you other Tylers. So yeah, what were some of the challenges that you faced during this 9-year development process? That has to be hard to what's the word? Coordinate across the entirety of 9 years. How was that?
It was quite hard. In some ways it wasn't too bad because basically the core problem was I designed a full plan of the entire game sort of in late 2015. And that seemed like a really good idea at the time. I was like, okay, well, basically I'll double the number of areas and things from the first game. The first game took like a year and a half to make.
Yeah.
At most. It's like, so this might take like 2 years or 3 years or something like that.
Sure.
That makes sense. But I hadn't worked on a project of this scale before with this kind of level of, like sort of working with an artist and working with, a composer on a huge soundtrack and, really just trying to hit this higher level of like storytelling and quality overall. And so the plan that I created was just way too big. And I just had no idea at the time, but it seemed like a good plan. I liked the way it was all coming together, so I just sort of kept staying the course, and I think it worked out in the end. But it ended up taking so long to make.
Oh, so you didn't eventually like redirect your course? Like you stayed the course and did
a little bit. A little bit. Yeah, there were things that definitely got like changed, or like small things that got cut just to make development more expedient. But
oh wow.
Generally speaking, like, this was basically just like, okay, this game was designed as, this plan. If you take any particular elements out, it's not going to work as well.
I can feel
I wanted
that.
to have this sort of amount of content, so
it definitely feels like a complete piece, and that's what I was telling Baku during the trailer when my voice was probably getting cut out. But I was saying that, as far as like throwback RPGs goes, this game feels like more than just like lip service to that era of RPGs. And I feel like that's something that really, I think, shines. It feels like there was a real solid vision behind it. So
I believe you.
So it's reassuring to hear that or reaffirming, I guess, to hear that it was an uncompromising vision, more or less, that made it from start to finish. And I kind of love that. I kind of love that about how indies can do that. Because I feel like in a boardroom, when they're like, "Wait, how long?" It's just sort of, no, we need to scope that differently. So
and you should like
yeah, in hindsight,
with,
sure,
like, millions of dollars, it's like you really should scope that differently.
I mean, yeah, that's probably why Xenogears came out kind of in the state that it did.
Yeah. No, I think
Derek,
this 2 is definitely reminiscent of that.
Sorry, they're saying that the guest audio is cutting out pretty badly. Not sure why.
Really?
Like, we hear you fine here, so I'm not sure.
And I'm
why.
using Discord audio, so
yeah. They're saying they can hear us, but the guest audio is cutting out quite a bit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, let me check on something here. Stall.
Well, I guess I can't stall if no one can hear me.
Yeah, let us know if you're able to hear Josh now. You're okay. Well, I'm glad we asked some like softball questions.
Right. Well, I just listened and it seems fine. Can anybody else in the chat verify that that's an issue right now?
Yes, please.
Because it sounded fine on my end. Baku, could you give it a listen as well? Julie says that the audio is perfect.
Julie says audio is perfect here. So yeah, I guess we can continue.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Sweet.
Okay.
All right. Well, so I guess one of the other questions that I had for you is like, how did the initial launch on PC and how did that, how did feedback from that experience, like, did that influence the launch of coming to console at all, or is?
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, throughout the last nearly 2 years, I've been doing pretty constant updates of the PC version.
Oh yeah.
And so, one of the great things about launching on PC first ended up being the fact that like I could take feedback and I could just apply it to the game pretty much instantly. And of course that means that by the time you get to the console version, you're getting a game where a lot of the rough edges have kind of been smoothed out and a lot of bugs have been fixed, and we've sort of been able to respond to even little things. Like, for example, I added a world map item, so it's just like if you want to bring up a world map with like place names and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
Now that's in the game. Well, quality of life stuff like that.
Oh, that's really awesome. I hadn't had a chance to actually play it since around the day of launch. So
it's pretty similar, but just like if you really compared everything, it's like there's probably about like 60 pages of changes.
Wow. So what were some of the main inspirations behind the story? And I mean, without getting into too many specifics, because maybe spoilers and stuff, what were some of the inspirations behind the story and like the setting of 8-Bit Adventures 2?
Yeah, so really, I think with JRPGs, we all like the idea of sort of we start out in like a medieval town, and by the end, we're fighting a god in space.
Of course,
like that's kind of like the progression of the genre in general. For some reason, we all seem to, I guess, we enjoy escalation, right?
Yeah.
So for me, the genre always has like this element of like fantasy and sci-fi, and so I really like playing with that in the game story. So there's really like basically we have like two worlds, and essentially one is fantasy and one is more technological. And part of the idea behind this is that I liked the idea of taking video gamey concepts and applying them as rules to a fantasy world. So things like the world sort of being secretly run by an omniscient computer. The idea in the same way that the code of a game essentially controls every action in the game.
Yeah.
Or the fact that our villain is a glitch, and obviously that comes from the idea of like game glitches, and so the idea of a character that essentially should not exist and is unwanted, and
missing
that's
though.
giving it literally exactly that. Yeah, exactly that, right? I loved Missing No as a kid because you could get all these weird moves and it made, like, it just looked like the craziest Pokemon ever.
Oh yeah,
and
it just it just would evolve into whatever randomly, and then have
exactly
borked stats.
That idea of like a villain that was outside of the rules was really fun to me. So just like the general concept of like taking unusual, sort of more modern technological ideas and applying them as rules to a fantasy world, like not going totally meta. It's not like in a video game as such, but it's just taking some of those ideas. That was sort of like one of the big inspirations for the sort of concept of the story. And then of course you've got all your, like Final Fantasy IX is a huge inspiration, and the Mother series, and
of course,
all sorts of different JRPGs, just for like the character-driven storytelling.
Yeah. So with the game, it seems like you've really focused though on more of like the NES style. Well, maybe not NES quite. Like it's a NES, but more. And it's beautiful. Can you explain like the design philosophy behind sticking with that 8-bit style, but like enhancing it for more modern platforms like consoles?
Sure. So, sort of going with the idea I was just talking about, I really wanted an art style that would look video gamey.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like 8-bit art is like quintessential. Like, there's nothing else that has ever looked like the NES did, like the NES games did. As you get to like Super Nintendo, you're starting to get to a bit more sort of not exactly realism, but like much more detail, and things sort of look more well defined.
Yeah.
And I think the closer you get to that, the harder it is to sort of accept some of these elements and ideas that I'm talking about as like legitimate, serious story points.
Yeah, because
like I think the NES sorry, please.
has like a bit more of like a abstract look to it than
exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Abstraction used to be like one of the major elements of like the JRPG genre, like just the way that you transfer like into battle. Like a weird battle transition. It's like abstraction was a really great technique, and it's one of the ones that I kind of wish more games would go back to.
100%.
Square Enix would find it a lot easier to balance their budgets if they use a little bit more abstraction to to transition into battles and to go into towns and stuff like that.
Exactly. It's like when I tell people, it's like in a JRPG, you fight thousands of battles over the course of like a story. The story that they're telling canonically probably didn't exactly occur with 10,000 combat encounters. It was probably like a representation of the trials and tribulations. They didn't actually take turns fighting each other. It's an abstraction of like combat. So yeah, abstraction is fundamental to the JRPG, and I think that's part of why people struggled to really grasp it early on with like the turn-based combat. Like, why am I just sitting here allowing me to get hit? Because, well, I mean, in chess, why do you take turns killing pawns?
Exactly. Yeah. But because it didn't look like chess, it didn't look like a board game.
Yeah.
I think people found it harder to rationalize the difference. I mean, obviously people all of us got past it, but I definitely remember my parents always saying like, why are they taking turns? Like, why aren't they just going up and beating up a guy?
Oh man. So with this beautiful style that we're seeing right now, like there's gotta be some like tributes maybe, or maybe visual Easter eggs, anything that we should be keeping an eye out for as we play through the game?
There's definitely little things. I mean, if anyone's, I'm sure several people in the audience have played Phantasy Star.
Oh yeah.
So there is a particular green-colored enemy in the final dungeon that I think is it's a bit of a reference.
All right.
We've got all these like cinematic cutscenes throughout the game, and they're pretty heavily inspired by like NES Ninja Gaiden, and as well as like Phantasy Star, and sort of those early games that would try and use like these big fancy images to try
the ultra wide setting, the ultra wide view when the hero opens. Like, yep. As soon as you said Ninja Gaiden, I was like, yep, that's the one. Oh man.
And the close up on the eyes as well that you get in that opening.
Oh, yeah. So good.
I love that stuff. So yeah.
Derek, sorry to interrupt. I think we might be having some technical issues with only the HitPoint podcast page.
Really?
On the Super Derek site, it's actually fine, they say.
Oh, weird. I
Yes.
think
Yeah, it is weird. Yeah.
here. That's yeah.
I'm just
That's
gonna add a quick note to the hit point part, and then
maybe I can
just
restart the stream
restart the stream. Yeah.
over there.
Sorry there,
Maybe.
Josh. Some technical
It
issues,
happens.
but hey, that's par for the course for live streaming. It's just the most professional streams on the internet.
I mean, there's not
Weird.
really any way to be professional when it comes to technology.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll always screw over.
It just wants to misbehave when it wants to misbehave.
All right. So I think that I was able to stop and restart the stream. Hopefully we are back at it again.
Right. So the audio is kind of glitchy over there, but here in the Derek site, it's perfectly fine.
It's weird because it's supposed to be using the same settings, but
Right.
you know, the internet is weird.
Yes.
Here, let me listen in over there real quick.
Do you want me to talk or?
Oh yeah, I see. Yeah, it's heavy glitching over there. Okay, yeah.
Ooh.
So everybody over on the HitPoint channel, sorry, let's just end that stream for now, and I'll move the VOD there later. Come on over to the Super Derek streams, and we'll resolve this later, or to the Super Derek YouTube channel. There. Okay, so sorry about that. That hopefully that'll help. Okay. All right, technical difficulties aside, man, speaking of glitches and things that just shouldn't exist.
yeah. No, it makes sense with his stream. I brought the glitches with me.
Of course, it's thematically linked, guys. This is what we call art. Okay, this is art, performance art. So with this game has like 7 playable characters. How did you make them all feel unique in like both combat as well as narratively?
It is tricky because you need to create a battle system which has like the bandwidth to do that.
Yeah.
You know, there's just under 100 unique abilities in the game across those 7 characters.
I believe it.
So you have a lot by the end of the game to play with. And you know, like not every ability is like going to be a winner.
Oh yeah.
Players have definitely figured out like, okay, you know, like, these abilities are really the most effective. But I really want to like base the abilities on each character's sort of personality and you know, sort of what they, you know, should have sort of in the story, right? So it's like you know, one character might be a bit more of a trickster, applying a lot of statuses, while another character will be like a real heavy hitter, or you know, or another character will be like a more defensive character focused on sort of you know, leadership abilities and protecting the party. So sort of trying to adhere to those kind of principles was the way to make each character stand apart and feel unique. But then there is also a balancing act because you also sort of need everyone to be able to fulfill certain roles. And, you know, if you have like a particular story enforced party or something like that at one point in the game, the party still has to feel balanced. So there's a lot to take into account.
And on the subject of balance, like you also have well, not recently, but in this iteration of 8-Bit Adventures, 8-Bit Adventures 2, you don't have random encounters, and that's really nice. I know a lot of people really are not a fan of random encounters. I'm as a fan of abstraction, I'm fine with it. But could you talk about like how that came into play with balancing the game and making sure that people were not over leveled or not under leveled and experiencing an appropriate level of difficulty?
Yeah, so that part is actually really the challenge, no matter what system you're using. But just generally speaking, when you use like on-map battles that are placed by the developer, it is really easy to sort of control the leveling curve and to curate the number of battles that players are going to encounter. So it makes it good for pacing as well, because it means that you know that the player is going to run into like a maximum of 8 fights in this dungeon rather than a potential 60. You know, like if you're in like a Final Fantasy 1 dungeon. So you know, sort of it gives you a bit more control there of just like just the player experience in general. But then the challenge becomes, okay, you know, these enemies are on the map. Players can avoid them. Players can easily run away from them. You know, what happens if they do that too much, and they don't really get the XP that they need, and they don't get the abilities and all that sort of thing. And so it's really just trying to create a good balance of like, okay, this number of encounters you're probably going to run into, you're probably going to bump into them, you're probably going to feel compelled to do them. Here's some ones that we're going to sort of enforce on you through the story, and just trying to sort of get the XP curve balance based on all that, so that no one is too weak and no one is too strong.
Yeah.
But there is also a mechanic on the save points in the game, which just allows you to revive all the enemies in a dungeon. So if you do want to grind,
right. I forgot about that.
Repeat it.
Oh, that's such a clutch thing to put that in the hands of the player, because I was like, I was thinking like, does it reset when you leave and come back? No, it's actually in the player's control.
Yeah.
So you can grind and over level if you so desire, but you don't have to.
Some people do. And they just end up super powerful. But yeah. It's up to them.
So I guess that kind of also leads into the question about like balancing for like the people who grew up playing these games, the hardcore JRPG fans versus like the newcomers. Is that kind of how you approach that kind of balance? Is just to put more into the hands of the player and let them determine their difficulty level?
A little bit of that. I also kind of find that a lot of people now that like were the hardcore JRPG players, 20, 30 years ago, they kind of don't have a lot of time anymore.
Yeah.
So
I feel seen.
Yeah, exactly. So it is part of the, like, my logic is basically about sort of trying to keep battles moving forward, keep them fast enough. I want sort of the boss battles to have some strategy and challenge, and I want the player to sort of be thinking about their build and how they're going to use their party. But sort of, I don't want anything to like take up a lot of time or like really like be a huge roadblock, especially not towards the end.
One of the things that I remember from my playthrough was like Charlie was going to go charter a ship, and I remember like as I had just left I can't remember the blind girl's name. She was so cool though. I loved her.
Emma. Yeah.
Yes. So anyways, they had just split, and it shows him walking toward the town, and in the back of my mind I'm like, oh, here we go. Gotta do the charter a boat quest line, and as he was approaching town, he like walks into the town, disappears, and then just approaches on the other side as a boat, and he's gone. It's like, what?
There nearly was a charter the boat sequence. That nearly did happen, but I thought better of it.
It's, I was like, because I don't have anything against it. It's just, it always like, it is expected. It is what one does. And to see that, that unbreakable convention just broken, and Skip is like, huh, I'm kind of glad about that. And I suppose that I don't know if that was ever a town you can go back to eventually, but I suppose it also cut back on some of the development cost of the town.
No, so that is a full town. That is.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, well, definitely a full town that you like revisit multiple times. But it's just like, it's something that wasn't the right time to go there.
I see.
Is basically what it was, right? Because the warrior character, he has like that's where he grew up. That's his hometown. It's like the town that you start in the first game. Sort of visiting it with Charlie wouldn't have had the same.
Wouldn't have been the right impact.
And there wouldn't have been like the opportunity to sort of discuss like what this place is and what's going on with it. So it was just easier to like keep the story moving, and we'll get there later.
And it probably also acts as a little bit of a tease for people who did end up playing 8-Bit Adventures 1, which is also fun.
That's it. You sort of always try to think about how to throw in little things that won't get, sort of get in the way of a new player's experience, but do sort of throw existing players, hey, that what that is, and you remember that.
So, speaking of some of my favorite NPCs, what you said her name was it Emma?
Emma, yeah.
Emma, okay. So what are some of the, well, I guess she doesn't count as an NPC because she actually was a playable character, but
yes,
what role do NPCs play in like driving the narrative forward? And are there any memorable side characters that you would like to tease?
Yeah, there's definitely. I mean, obviously, it's a JRPG, so everywhere you go, you're meeting different colorful characters, and some of them are opponents, and some of them are friendly, and that. I mean, I think there's a sequence later in the game in a Japan-inspired region, and I think that is one of the really sort of highlights of that sort of larger like regional storytelling with a bunch of little characters.
Yeah.
But probably one of the major NPCs that guides the player is the computer. And
yes.
I think that is it's always a very interesting character to write because it's sort of not good, not bad. It just has a perspective, and it's trying to make sure that you do what it wants you to do.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very interesting NPC. But I mean, just in general, like all throughout the game, there's I tried to write a lot of colorful characters for all the towns, and I mean, can't remember actually what the total number is, but there's over 200 NPCs throughout the game. So there's a lot of people if you like sort of interacting with little townsfolk and sort of side characters. There's a lot of that.
Awesome. So let's shift gears a little bit. And I mean, people they've seen a lot of the game from like reviews at this point and the trailer we just watched. We got to hear a little bit of the audio, some of the music in the game. It's got some awesome chip tunes. So I thought during my first impressions video of this that they might have been chip tunes that were like made on an actual NES. Is that correct?
Close. So we used FamiTracker.
Oh, okay. So it's like an emulated NES.
Exactly. So you're basically using, something that sounds genuinely authentic.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't have the hardware literally in front of you. So I know that Sebastian Cruz, our composer, he used things like the Konami, what's it called? The VRC?
Oh,
the sort of chip that like Castlevania 3 had on the Famicom.
Yeah, the extended chipset that we didn't get in the
Exactly. Yes. So he sort of played with those extra chipsets that were made by some different companies, and he did a lot of experimenting with like overclocking sounds and just like trying to really push the audio as far as he could.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he just did an exceptional job. I love the soundtrack.
Absolutely did, because like I said in my video talking about it, like whereas 8-Bit Adventures the original felt like an early NES title, maybe that was like still learning how to harness the sound chip, this one felt like a seasoned developer made it for the NES, and that extends to the music as well. So yeah, they knocked it out of the park. And I suppose that's the
case as well. That was exactly what it was. He was starting out just where I was, so trying to figure out what to do.
Oh, that's awesome. So, one of the things that I would like to ask them, I mean, they're not here, but do you know of any of their particular inspirations for their music?
Well, I mean, I sent all sorts of things. Like basically for each music track, I would like to send a description of what's going on and screenshots and video and sort of make it sort of sound like these tracks. So I obviously like for that I pulled for all across Final Fantasy and like Legend of the Gaia, Legend of Dragoon, Wild Arms, Chrono Trigger, like Psych and Dead Setsu, just all across, just trying to hit sort of the right emotions. But I know that he also sort of has inspirations from like I know he listened to the Asterix soundtrack on NES.
Oh, yeah,
which is a surprisingly advanced and like really impressive soundtrack that used like the NES's chipset really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that he's always sort of got a bit of a would it be called? I don't think it'd be called EDM exactly, but it just like sort of like a dance music kind of beat and vibe. Like he's really good on sort of
electronica.
Percussion.
Sort of.
Yeah, and that as well. Like, there's an area called the City of Sounds, and sort of as you progress through that dungeon, the track builds and builds and builds.
Oh, that's cool.
And so by the final track, it's like like really like.
I love it. So you actually were sending them like gameplay during the production of this to help make sure that it all kind of like integrated it and felt cohesive as a whole, right then?
Yeah, and he's like just amazing at that, right? Like he basically just can look at a scene like just out of a few pictures and a bit of video and just be like, all right, this is what it needs, and I put it in and it just fits perfectly. So he was really good at that.
So I have a few questions specifically about the console release, and then we'll probably start fielding some questions from chat. But I guess what were some of the technical challenges of like bringing this to current gen consoles?
So you wouldn't think that there would necessarily be much of a challenge for the type of game it is, but as I was, you'd be wrong. There was a lot more than I expected involved, and like the game is made in RPG Maker MV.
Okay.
With like 130 something plugins on top of it, but
yeah, it looks
RPG
very
Maker
custom.
really, yeah, exactly. But like just as a like foundation, MV is really not made for consoles at all. Like none of the consoles can really just like take the format like JavaScript like it uses or anything like that. So everything has to be like recompiled and converted. And of course, you get it onto consoles, and then a lot of things just don't work. So I sought out the company Ratalaika Games because they have a really good track record on porting, and so we've sort of just been working. I mean, they kind of did the first leg of the journey, and then once they had builds going on, I could sort of test it out and say like, okay, this isn't right, and they'd go back and forth fixing things, and then sort of close to release, I sort of had to do like a big optimization drive just to try and get the game running as well as possible on Switch.
Yeah.
Because like Switch was a lot harder.
I was gonna say, how much harder was that? It must have been a bit of a challenge. It is. I mean, it is a 10-year-old console at this point that was already 2 years old when it was launched, essentially.
That's it. Yeah.
The NVIDIA Tegra 2 chip. Gotta love it.
It's mainly just down to sort of like CPU and GPU and sort of how it uses, the sort of power it has.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, it was like the world map, for example, was the biggest problem because the world map when we first put it onto Switch was running at like less than 10 frames per second.
Oh wow!
Just because it's a huge map, and there's all these different processes running in the background, which on PC and PS5 and all that sort of thing doesn't really matter.
Sure.
But on Switch, it was like, okay, so we have to figure out how to like optimize every single little thing we can find to make this run properly.
So
we talked about this, Derek. We've talked about it. Somebody, I mean, we're not that we're hating on the Switch, because I love my Switch for what it is. Like,
oh, me too. I love it.
Yeah, love taking it on trips. I love what it is, but the outdated hardware is challenging for developers to work with, and I'm glad that I'm getting that like validation or verification from Josh. Like, yeah, guess what? Even a game that, at least from the surface, looks like it wouldn't be very demanding, is in fact very difficult to deal with when it comes to the Switch. So thank you.
I think it's basically the sort of surface level of the game doesn't matter as much as like what's going on under the hood.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure like I wouldn't be anything like Witcher 3, right? But obviously they had to work some real miracles to get that working as well. Like they had to really optimize.
It's just all machine code. it's all just assembly all the way down. So
I think it's just the nature of like a handheld system rather than like a dedicated console. But I mean, I'm sure Switch 2 will power it up a lot and make it a lot easier.
I'm certain of it. So are there any other plans for post-launch updates or maybe additional content, DLC or anything like that you have currently planned?
Yeah, so I'm working on free DLC at the moment.
Free DLC?
Yep.
Oh, we love free DLC.
So that's going to be coming out in early 2025. And so it's just free to anyone that owns the game. And it's basically going to be a new 50-area dungeon. And a new town, and sort of like there's some new progression stuff, and there's about like 7 super bosses to fight and overcome. And there's also a sort of a story which adds a bit more lore, and so it's just like an extra coda to the story. So it's unlocked when you beat the full game.
Cool. All right. So I guess knowing what you know now, about bringing games to console. Any plans to bring the original 8-bit adventures on over, or is that gonna?
I would love to. I would absolutely love to. The main problem with that one is it's made in a really old engine that like doesn't run that well on PC. So converting that, I've got no idea what that would involve.
So we're gonna need like some sort of remaster or something.
Basically, my current thought, and I'm not really making a secret of this because it's not happening yet. But
yeah,
just like I really want to basically remake 8-Bit Adventures 1, make it at the same like level of quality as the sequel. I mean, especially since like you can reuse like several different assets from the sequel, and
sure,
you can sort of make it a little more viable that way. And just like try and really like lift it up to that same standard, so that then like you've got the full story on every console, at the same level of quality. And I think that would, yeah,
that's fantastic, because I feel like that addresses one of the things that I said at the beginning of the show about like making direct sequels of RPGs. Speaking of which, how did you approach this? I mean, I obviously was able to enjoy it, having not yet played all of 8-Bit Adventures, but I still enjoyed it quite a bit. How did that affect your, like, clearly you had that in the back of your mind when making 8BA2, right?
I think probably front of mind, because I knew that if this was going to be a successful game, then most people that played it would not have played the first one. It's like 8-Bit Adventures 1 was like a modest success, like a very, very modest success, but obviously had to grow a lot more from that. So I basically just went in with the idea that, okay, most people aren't going to have played it, so let's take the events of 8-Bit Adventures 1 and let's use them as context and sort of backdrop for the story here.
Yeah.
So I like to always think about like, so if you played like Wind Waker as your first Zelda game, that game has a ton of ties to Ocarina of Time. Like Ganondorf is the same man. You've got like all these different details like under the sea. The whole opening is about the story of Ocarina of Time and what happened there.
Yeah.
And so you sort of get like an extra sense of like gravitas and impact if you have played Ocarina of Time. But if you haven't, then your point of view character is basically the Link of that game, who is like the wide-eyed 10-year-old that doesn't know any of the context or backstory to anything. And so really what I tried to do was just like add new characters in with the old, and sort of give them like sort of fresher perspectives that new players could really latch onto. Because if they don't know something, then chances are these other new characters are going to be asking the same questions if they're relevant to the story, and if they're not, it's probably not a big deal.
All right.
Interesting.
So I have I think that was all of the questions that I had told you have, but I have one final question, and that is, are you sure that there wasn't any inspiration behind Charlie's visage that is more than meets
actually, did my game change your hairstyle?
No. No.
You got to tell a story about that one.
But if I see, your next game, whenever that comes out, if I see someone who looks like a bit of a hipster, I will know. I'm onto you.
I'll have to put it in now. It could be intentional this time. I didn't design Charlie, right? That was our artist Jerome Fahy. But I have like been watching your content since like very early on, like Dark Cloud.
Oh wow,
and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely I knew of you and your signature hair.
All right, well, I'll just tuck that in my back pocket for later. Well, thank you very much. Baku, I think you've been curating some of the questions that have been coming in from viewers. Would you like to bring any of them up?
Also, some questions for myself as I'm listening through the interview. Don't think that I didn't have questions from me. All right. Now, these are questions that Josh had not had a chance to prepare for. So actually, one of the questions you had already answered. Someone was wondering if the first game will ever come to the Switch down the road. But I think you've given quite the answer to that.
It could be Switch 2 by the time that happens, but I guess we'll see how it goes.
It won't take another 9 years.
Definitely not 9 years. Definitely not 9 years.
Yeah. No. I mean, between remake and remaster, what do you think would be more viable if you were to bring the first game over? Like, because it seems like at some point remastering might actually just end up being the same amount of work. It's just remaking the darn thing in the same engine. So,
In this
like, what
case,
would you
it
even call
definitely
it?
would be.
Yeah.
Like it would have to just be a remake because I'd have to make it from the ground up in a new engine. So even though I'd basically just be taking the content from before, like in the most literal sense, it would be remaking it. So
Yeah.
Call it a remake, because remaster in our sphere has like an inferior connotation than a remake in
Kind of a
terms of
half
like the effort
measures.
I
value.
agree.
Yeah. Because remaster is like, oh yeah, you gave it like HD, whatever. Like, I mean, it's still
you
good,
ran it through
you
an
know?
upscaler or something. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't think you did like a new thing. Remakes, like, oh man, you redeveloped this entire thing from the grounds up. Man, that's a lot of work.
The good thing about me like drawing a lot of the graphics for the first game and them not looking so good is that like a comparison will really show up the difference.
Well, good.
There certainly is a market improvement from one to the other. It's good to know what you're best at, right?
That's it's purely budget, right? It's
that
like,
too.
If I could have hired Jerome to do the entire game for Ape Adventures 1, I absolutely would have done it.
I totally understand.
All right. Here's another question. In considering making sure the aesthetics are more related to the Nintendo Super Nintendo Vive versus like the Game Boy Color one, like, how would you tell them apart in your own terms is the question.
It's a good question, because I mean, there were Game Boy Color games that were, I mean, technically looking like advanced NES games, but usually the distinction was sort of more to do with color depth. And like how they would use color on the Game Boy to try and get around the fact that the screen didn't have a backlight. So I think that tends to, in the same way that, like, I mean, it's most noticeable with GBA games where they like really like up the saturation and sort of get visually pale,
the pastels,
vibrant, pastel looking GBA games.
Yeah.
But they were still doing that on like the Game Boy Color as well. And I think if you look at a lot of Game Boy Color games, like you'll notice that battles, for example, are just like a blank, like white or gray background. And I feel like a lot of that was to try and make it pop as much as possible on the unlit screen. Whereas, of course, NES games were really trying to, like most NES games, for example, have a flat black background to try and make things pop in a completely different way on a television. So there was quite a difference in like approach, and that really had to do with the form factor of the hardware. But I mean, there's definitely, I think, a lot of people have made comparisons with Ape Adventures 2 to like Game Boy Color RPGs like Dragon Quest III. I do think there are definitely some similarities. People always sort of talk about the game looking more 16-bit. And it's like, the interesting part about that is that like everything's drawn at 8-bit size, and we're using the NES color palette. But what we don't do is we don't limit the number of colors on screen at once. And
it kind of reminds me of
where you get the 16-bit.
Kind of gives me like vibes of Sega Master System, which didn't get very big here in the United States, but it did in the UK, and I'm not sure if it did in Oz or not. But
I honestly, I don't think it did. I think it was bigger than it was in America, but not like to the same degree.
Or maybe TurboGrafx, which was also marketed as an 16-bit console, but it was really just two 8-bit processes that ran, but it was also able to get a few more colors on screen than the NES. So that's what makes me think of that, is like, oh yeah, that kind of,
it's like that middle ground, right? Like sort of in between NES and SNES.
Yeah. So that's why I'm thinking like, oh man, what was the like Gimmick, I think, is one of the later NES games that was just like very beautiful and just so many colors, but because they figured out all the little tricks to make it like, make it really pop. So
did they have a unique cartridge for that one?
I mean, I don't know, maybe. I couldn't tell you.
No, I probably not on that one. I think it was mostly the unlicensed ones that did like real technical fiddling and like Famicom games, but
except for the ones that had like the extra colors or not extra colors, but like extra frames for like smooth scrolling while also having like a thing on the bottom that like stayed static. Like, oh yeah.
No, that was the thing that I wanted to ask about too, because I'm like, you call this 8-bit, but I don't
It is. It
recognize
is
it as 8-bit. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like Shovel Knight, right? It's exactly the same approach that they took with like, okay, well, this isn't going to be NES accurate, but it's going to look and feel like that era.
That
does
makes sense.
in your mind's eye. Yeah.
I have been very confused by it when I looked at it. I'm like, I mean,
I totally
8-bit, but
I see
this
it.
looks way better than like
I
what
know.
I remember 8-bit looking like.
If you compare it to like Final Fantasy 3 on Famicom, it's like it's like just a sort of a notch above that, I would say.
Gotcha.
Oh,
you know, it's funny
comparing yourself to Final Fantasy 3, are you?
Oh, well, preparing to release
visually.
You know, 8-bit Adventures 3. I see. Oh,
No.
the 3. Oh, that's why. Oh, okay. You guys hear it first. Josh is talking about 3. Oh, it's got hinting at something there.
Half-Life 3 confirmed.
Half-Life 3 confirmed.
I'm doing Half-Life 3 and it's a JRPG.
I would be so stoked.
I was watching. We were talking about the NHK documentary on Final Fantasy. I was sharing that with Derek earlier because I was just watching that. It's a super amusing documentary that basically interviews Sakaguchi and like all the other people. You know, because Sakaguchi is kind of like the face of Final Fantasy, but they interviewed other people and talked about like the kind of decisions that they had to make in order to make Final Fantasy work. And all the business decisions that they had to do, like little business decisions that they had to do to fight like Dragon Quest. So I was like, wow, this is a nice watch right before the interview for 8-bit Adventure, right? So I just recommend watching it because it's just interesting.
I really need to watch that. I didn't know it was actually like had an English subtitle option yet.
I'll send a link later.
Yeah, thank you. That'd be great.
I'll send a link. Okay, and a follow-up question. Would you ever want to do a 16-bit or 32-bit game, or is your preference really on like the Super Nintendo style pixel look?
No, I'd love to do a 16-bit or 32-bit game. It is literally just that the cost of doing that goes up drastically every single time.
I know. Like every console jump is like
is insane.
Every time the bits double, the cost quadruples, right?
Oh, jeez.
It's like 16-bit maybe not so much anymore. Like we're probably at a point where that's almost standard. 32-bit, like just the size that everything has to be drawn at.
Oh, I know.
That's a lot of hours.
Yeah, but it's so pretty.
It is gorgeous. Yeah, I wouldn't mind if you just stick to this too. Like
this is that might happen for a little while.
I like the look of it, quite frankly. Yeah. Okay. So here is another question. And it says, is there any chance you could reveal some details about the secret projects you mentioned quite a time ago on the Discord server? Nothing wrong with them still being secrets. So if you want to just withhold that here, that's perfectly fine.
I have
take a chance.
Yeah, I have well, 2 secret projects and the free DLC that I'm working on at the moment. So,
you heard it here first, guys. There are 2, not 1 secret project, 2 secret projects that Josh.
One is gonna happen a lot earlier than the second one, though.
The DLC, I'm sure, or
no, the DLC is already public knowledge. So that's there's 3 things I'm working on.
Oh,
wow.
Well, there you go.
Which which I'm struggling with a little bit, but yeah.
All right. Well, maybe we could talk about this some other time off stream. Off the record.
I might share some details with you about it because I think you'd probably be interested to hear. But basically what I would say is like one of the projects I'm working on is like 8-bit Adventures related, but not part of the series as such. So
interesting.
It's a bit different. Much shorter, smaller scale.
The Thick Plottins. Awesome.
Well, Derek and I are very used to signing NDAs, so just have your lawyers talk to us. send those documents over. We'll sign it, and then we'll get in on the secret. Thank you so much for answering that. Okay, so we've got some say 4-bit Adventures. No way.
I mean, I have a big fondness for like the N64s, so like I would love to do like a Quest 64 looking game.
Oh gosh.
Let's see. Oh, we've got a fellow indie dev here. Hey, say, hey Josh, James here. So proud of you on your success and the console ports. Cheers, buddy. From Primitive Pixels.
Oh, wow, thank you very much, James.
Thank you, James, for stopping by.
Definitely check out Primitive Pixels on Twitter, of course, well, X now. Definitely like doing some really, really great stuff there.
I'll check them out. That's cool.
I think you'll like this new trailer.
I'm gonna go follow them right now, actually, and everybody here should too. And by the way, if you haven't, you should also follow Critical Games over on Twitter as well.
At Critical Games AU.
Yes, at Critical Games AU.
Because Critical Games was taken. So I put the Australia on it.
Well, I mean, hey, Super Derek was also taken, so Super Derek YT was also my initial handle. Whoever was the original owner of Super Derek as the handle must be annoyed as heck right now.
Man. Yes. Oh, there you go. I was right. It is the seed of nostalgia. I know. Yep. I see you. I see you,
yeah.
James. Anywho, let's get back to some questions. So these are questions I think that are more related to just genre in general. But I've got questions that says, with Trails Through Daybreak and now Metaphor having hybrid combat system, do you think this is the future for this genre?
I think it's a really good way. I mean, like the Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth have done that as well. I mean, it obviously is like what the AAA sees as a way to sort of get in the more action-focused folks, like the ones that were complaining about like Baldur's Gate 3. But also sort of maintain what they do well and sort of what what the genre is really known for. So I think it's a much more graceful approach than like going full action RPG. Or something like that. And if that's what the AAA market sort of feels is like necessary to sell these games to like the widest possible audience, and I mean, obviously Metaphor is doing really, really well. Although I don't
talk about that later.
As much. I guess my perspective is always like, I don't think turn-based combat is actually a detriment, because if that was the case, then I think Pokemon would never have taken off.
Oh no,
and wouldn't
certainly
like sell as much today. Like if I get that people don't buy those games for the turn-based combat, but obviously it doesn't actually put anyone off. Playing those games either. So generally speaking, I think like if a game's concept is unique enough, it doesn't really matter what the battle system is. But I mean, I really like these hybrid systems that we're getting. I think they're a good mix of like adding a lot of good deep strategy and sort of planning to sort of the hack and slash controls and gameplay. Although Metaphor is really still fairly turn-based from what I understand.
Oh yeah. Metaphor is mostly turn-based. There's basically the ability to hit an enemy outside the field, but unlike the newest Trails game and what was the other one that they mentioned?
Metaphor. There's Daybreak.
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 Well, there's Daybreak, but then there's another one.
Oh, I just said remake and all that.
Oh wait. Yeah, you're right. Metaphor did have an additional turn or outside of combat kind of action RPG ishness to it. Yeah. Daybreak was more like you could pretty much play exclusively in action RPG mode, I think, for a while. But I think that eventually with the Metaphor, it would eventually turn into a turn-based combat encounter no matter what. So
I'm actually really looking forward to trying Daybreak system.
Oh, it's neat. It's very neat.
I'm like, ooh, but I'm so behind on Trails. Like, ooh, I want to jump over there. I just want to like experience it. Because I think Final Fantasy VII Remake tried to do some.
It tried to make concessions
with menu.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but when you go into the menu, the game doesn't stop. It just like slows it down.
It does like the VATS menu of like Fallout 4.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So very interesting to see what developers do. Like what I think that's sort of like the next innovation, but I don't think this is going to like get rid of pure action or pure turn based.
No,
There's
I think
always going to be a market for those.
Kind of carves out its own third option, which is neat.
Yeah.
And it's good to get that perspective from an indie developer, because Baku and I say this often, not usually like during interviews and stuff, but we do feel like indies are one of the last really creative spaces in JRPG creation at this point that can just sort of develop unhindered, which is why I felt like it was, I could feel when I was playing 8-Bit Adventures 2 that it was kind of an uncompromising vision being fulfilled. And I feel like
I just wanted to take the Final Fantasy X combat system and do more with it, right? Like that's something that like obviously Square isn't doing and hasn't done. So it's like that's what I want to do as an indie. So
yeah, and I feel like indies are the kind of the future. If I mean AAA is kind of it's a little confusing right now as far as how it's doing. Like right now, Metaphor is doing really great, and that's wonderful. And Final Fantasy VII, that was really fun. The people love it, but it also didn't sell very well. So it's like, what's the future going to be if this sort of thing, trend continues? Is it sustainable? I don't know, but either way, indies are always going to be a thing at this point, and I love it. So
I think we feel like an important niche, right, for people like us that want more games in like the old style.
Yes, absolutely.
Obviously, we're not going to get that from a AAA developer in sort of its purest form, anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
But I also bet that like Metaphor cost a lot less to make than Rebirth. So like,
I bet you're right.
Got a pretty good like sustainable approach to making these sort of big AAA turn-based games.
Yeah, yes. I think you hit the nail on the head there too. Sustainability is hugely important for everybody.
It's what Falcom has done, so incredibly well with Trails. So
I know. So despite everything, despite all of the series of sequels that guarantee a decreased return every time, they've managed to work their way through it, and it's wild.
Well, it's a funny thing because it's like you're right in a lot of cases, but there's also a completely different effect that can happen where people play one of the games, then go back and play all the rest.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that's a very lucrative situation because, whereas they bought one game, now they're buying 5 other games.
Yeah.
So
only 5?
Well, yeah, fair point. But,
I gotcha.
And that audience just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Hey, we just got a super chat in for Josh, so I think we should probably respond to that before the usual time.
Yes. Well, we can
add it to our list.
This is added to the list. But we can ask that right now, actually, because the next set of questions are related to just sort of it's sort of related. So here it is from Still Alive. From a developer's point of view, do you personally see the video game industry eventually going all digital, or do you think there's still enough market for physical games to remain?
So I'm a big like physical guy myself. Like, I mean, I love game collecting. It's gotten too expensive for me now, but like I still want to have like a physical box for any game that I buy.
Yeah.
And I think there is like a really important sense of ownership. I mean, Steam just legally had to add the disclaimer about how on Steam you are buying a license for the game, not the actual game. So I think if you want to own a product, physical is still really the only way to do that. And obviously that's gotten a lot harder with updates and things like that. But there at least does have to be a functional product on the disc. Well, usually anyway.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah. So I think physical is really important in that sense. And I think preservation will get a lot harder when physical disappears. In terms of the way that the industry is going, there is definitely a future in which everything goes purely digital, just because obviously there's no cost associated with digital sales. Except for obviously what the console companies themselves decide. But just in general, like, I mean, obviously I couldn't sell like a physical copy, like, or like a physical like retail game in like GameStop or EB Games or whatever, right? Like that would just be prohibitive for an indie developer in most cases. So digital's kind of opened up a lot of doors in that way, and so I think there's a lot of potential for that going forward for a lot of different companies and developers. But I definitely also don't want to see a physical disappear. So I'm not really sure what the way forward will be. Obviously, console companies are trying to kick out physical as much as possible.
Yep.
But I definitely want to push back on that as much as we can. And I'd love to get a physical 8-bit Adventures 2 at some point. So
That'd
I'll
be
be buying
awesome.
that. I'm just
Thank you.
saying. Like,
The-
one guarantee sale right here that for what it's worth.
No, I mean seriously, that is like every like vote of confidence is like, okay, there is a market for this.
There's 100% a market for this for you guys.
Yeah. When so we had Davis from Forge to Fate come on like a couple of weeks ago, and we were doing a similar interview, and I think it was like shortly after or during the interview that he was announcing that, oh yeah, there will be physicals. Oh yeah, it was during the show. We talked about oh yeah, there will be
It was
physicals.
a Kickstarter goal, I think, that
On the
he had met.
Kickstarter, yeah. And so I was super stoked because I'm like, yes, I like this. I want to support it, and I want to get the physical copy. And I fell through. Like I went and I got the physical copy.
Nice.
And I've done that basically for all the well, not all the indie games, but any of the ones that I could find that started off with digital, because as you mentioned, doing physical release is not like indie developers don't want to do it.
Yeah.
It's it's like a whole other nightmare. Like the logistics, the production, like
Oh my gosh.
it's a physical product, like
yeah.
as much as it's
Very
a
different.
disc, you have to have it produced, right? And distributed. So it's
And
not
the game's
like
got to be done is the other thing, right?
Yeah.
Like it has to be. You want to give people, if they're buying like a collector's edition indie physical edition,
Yeah.
you want to give them like the version that's like had all the content out, is fixed as bug fixed as much as possible. Like you want that physical edition to sort of stand in perpetuity forever.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So hopefully, as a game gets popular and it sells well, and we can see physical editions, and there are some companies that are helping indies out. I don't know to what extent, because I don't know the behind the scenes stuff, but like limited game runs, like folks like them or other companies,
Strictly
like,
limited, and
yeah, they try to be like, okay, well, hey, this indie sold pretty well, so hey, here's a limited physical edition you can pre-order. We're not making tens and thousands of them, but because you pre-ordered it, we know that there is like a guaranteed person who wants it. And it's not like a Kickstarter, like, no, we're promising you that you will get it, but you have to just pay ahead. And I'm kind of fine with that. So it kind of lowers the risk for all parties involved. Like you're promising that you want this thing and you're paying the money for it, and we'll promise we'll get it to you. And if that's the
finding
sole
out that you've got
focus.
that audience is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, bro, I love you too. I just got a confession of love in chat. Thank you. reading reading for questions right now. But okay, here's another one. And they said, I'm an 8-bit RPG game developer myself, or they're making an 8-bit RPG game. Sorry.
Oh, cool.
They were wondering if there were any tips you might be able to give them to improve what they may have already built, which may be hard because Josh is
I don't know what they built, but
any general tip maybe if one were to make an 8-bit RPG game.
So one thing is to use shaders to do like sort of fade out effects and like sort of enemy dying effects and stuff like that. One issue, and I made the exact same mistake on 8-bit Adventures 1, was just like using transparency on certain effects.
Oh.
Whereas of course the NES just didn't have transparency, same with the Game Boy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to make it look right, you really have to develop some kind of shader progressive shader system, just to do the fade ins and fade outs and sort of like flashes of to white and stuff like that. It makes everything feel so much more authentic once you get that in. That was only like 2021, I think we actually implemented it, and it just instantly felt so much better.
Oh wow. Does that also change the how much does that affect the efficiency of the game to run lightly? Like, does it
It probably affects it negatively, I would say.
Oh, okay.
Because you are running like a custom shader system to like,
Okay.
basically change the palette of the entire scene for every like step of the fade out.
Oh. Wow.
But
So it'll make it harder to run on Switch, but
probably.
That's good to know.
It's not going to be the most costly thing though. But yeah, no, I think shaders is something that a lot of people do miss when they're sort of starting out, and I think it looks really, really cool.
Awesome. So I've got two more questions. One is directly related to the game and your projects, and another one is more about like from your perspective as a developer. Which one would you want to do? Right? Which one would you want to do first?
I don't mind. I guess let's try. I guess perspective as developer, because I guess we're kind of on that train.
Okay. So this is and you may or may not be able to answer this one because it requires you to have seen a certain game, but it said have you seen the Lunar remastered collection?
Yes.
Can anyone tell me what's with the blur at the top and bottom of the screen, and can it be removed? From a developer perspective, what even is that? What's the blur?
I don't know. The blur is basically them trying to take the original games and make them look right at a resolution that they weren't ever designed for. I mean, it would look fine without it, so I don't really know why they do it, but for some reason, like, modern companies just love to slap all these filters. It's like the Mega Man games always have these terrible, like, sharpening filters put over them in the collections by default, and I really don't know why they do it, because the pixels stand up really well. With Lunar, I'm guessing it's basically just we want to try and add in some sort of Octopath looking, like, depth of field kind of effects to try and make it look a little more modern, and a bit less like a PS1 Sega CD game. But I definitely hope there's an option to turn that off, because I'm with you. I don't really like that either.
I didn't notice it until just now. I went and looked at it. Yeah, that definitely looks like a half-baked tilt shift effect that you try. That's something that you can apply to certain kinds of photography to make the item look like a model set. It's something that you'll see in a lot of like HD 2D remakes and stuff. But it's usually applied not to a flat like top and bottom, but like it'll take depth of like items or buildings into effect, so it doesn't look as
flat.
Yeah, but this is
not done well.
It's not done well.
I mean, hey, it's not. It at least they didn't bake in a smudge effect like they did for Grandia, and I'm just gonna
lessons learned there.
I mean, yeah. Hopefully they can turn that off, though. I mean, they did say they have a classic mode.
I assume that'll be for free.
It's free.
So,
yeah.
It's
4:3 aspect ratio.
Yeah, it's 4:3. Yeah, I think so. I think it's 4:3. At least from what I saw, it was.
I don't see any footage of it in 4:3s except for the FMVs and stuff, but.
It could also be, I mean, depending on how they're handling the FMVs, I wonder if it's like they're going to try and expand the FMVs by. Although I think they probably use the PSP FMVs.
No,
because there was a PSP remake, wasn't there?
There was, but it doesn't look like they're using those. Okay. I mean, they're definitely the same that were used on PlayStation 1, but they've definitely been cleaned up. I'm not sure if by hand or by.
They'd have to be either zoomed in, or they could be applying like a blur effect.
The FMVs are in 4:3, so they have black bars on the side, so that's good at least. So, it's the faithful way.
Yeah, I don't know why they'd apply the blur to the actual like sprite art then.
Yeah, I do not know. That's really weird. Like they're trying to do some sort of tilt shift, but I don't know.
They probably just want to make it look more HD 2D to try and market it better, but. I think they need to know their audience on that one.
Yeah, I think you're right.
All right.
And by the way, thanks for knowing your audience and allowing us to play 8-Bit Adventures 2 in a what's it called? The
4:3
integer scale.
Like,
yes.
Sorry, yes. Yeah.
And the integer scaling. Yep. You know us nerds well.
I'm the same way. Like, it drives me nuts otherwise. So.
This is why we like indie developers. Like it's like you get it, you know.
Well, we're just the audience, but decided to like we're just part of the audience, and we decided to start making games. So
Oh geez,
that's the
yes.
thing. Yeah.
You know, when you mentioned about just people not really having enough time in the day and like don't really want to go into like 100-hour games. Like, I mean, okay, look, I'm not saying that no one wants that. I'm certain some people still do, but a lot of us just don't really have that kind of time. It's not that we don't want to do it. I would love to. I would love to have no obligations. Okay, no family obligations, no work. Okay, no adult errands. Okay, I don't have to pay any bills, do any dry cleaning. I would do nothing but eat and bathe and sleep and game. That would be great. But that's not my reality. And that's not the reality of a lot of people. I mean, I don't have kids, but I do have, I'm back in school. It's the audience knows. So that takes up a lot of times. But man, if I had kids too, like, I don't think I can even do any gaming. Like, never mind 100 hours. I don't even know if I can do a 20-hour game. Like, it's just lots of things that takes up your time. So I appreciate that more so from indie developers because they've made a concerted effort to say, yeah, we don't have a lot of budget to do 100 hours game, but you know what works well? The fact that you don't have time to play 100 hours game either. So hey, you know, we have the mutual respect, and it's great.
The data shows that most people that buy those 100-hour games like never even get close to finishing them. Like, we all just like the idea of like bang for our buck.
No, I mean,
it's a pipe dream.
Yeah, I've seen so many 100-hour plus games, and people buy it, but they just don't finish it, right? And at that point, it's like that's a lot of missed opportunity and potential to completing a story and having a new fan versus the end result is just me saying, "Oh yeah, a great game for whatever I played, but never finished it just because too long." Couldn't do it.
On the subject of bang for your buck, I feel like I want to shout this from the mountaintops every time I hear somebody else say, bang for your buck in regards to like the time of an RPG versus the cost of that RPG. Like when I was a kid and my time was free, that's that, and money was really tight. That was definitely a consideration. I now live in a world where my free time is so limited because I've got a full-time job, I've got a YouTube job on top of it, I've got a wife, and I've got a D&D campaign that's consuming me every waking moment, and I'm just spread very thin. And so it's not I'm no longer looking for things to fill my time. I'm looking for high quality experiences that I can experience in a, well, not necessarily a short amount of time, but a quality amount of time. Like I want high engagement for the duration of whatever I'm doing to get the most happiness per mile. And if that happens to take place over the course of a 100-hour RPG, then that's great. But a lot of times it feels like those are diluted experiences because they throw in 1,000 extra combat encounters that you've already done 100 times before. Like, is it adding anything new, or is this mandatory mini game that you must do all of the the pull-ups just perfectly?
With Final Fantasy 7, you
no, I'm talking about a different game.
Pull-ups,
totally different game. But is this adding to the experience, or is this just padding the experience? Right.
Yeah.
So that's something that I love about indies, is that they can't afford to waste your time with filler.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because the time that it takes to develop that is poor ROI, and
it's so extra resources.
So at this point,
the Chrono Trigger rule is always what I follow, and what most indie developers talk about is like that's a 20-hour RPG.
Yeah, it really is.
Waste your time, like almost at any point.
Yeah.
So just like stay focused.
Is that what they call it in the circle? The Chrono Trigger rule?
I've never actually heard anyone say that exactly, but everyone always talks about the pacing in Chrono Trigger. Every developer that I know talks about the pacing in Chrono Trigger.
Because it's masterful.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that like time is not something. It's not. It's an additional cost to the player, not necessarily a free resource to be consumed.
It's not actually value.
Yeah, it's not
If it takes
value,
longer.
it's a cost. Exactly. And people have, I think, from playing as children, haven't yet realized to turn that whole concept on its head yet.
But
No,
you know what I
couldn't put it
do
better.
like is that I've talked to some indie developer, not a whole a lot many, but every time I talk to one, they always cite Chrono Trigger. And it's Chrono Trigger is my absolute favorite game. I've told people that countless times.
Mine
And
too.
it's just sort of like Chrono Trigger is like the game devs RPG, and that makes me feel very happy to hear.
It was made by the Dream Team, right? Like it is
Yeah.
literally like the best JRPG developers all just working on one project together from across companies. So
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Hironobu Sakaguchi, Yuji Horii, Akira Toriyama, just so many, Yasuno Matsuda, so many quality developers involved in the production that just, it's, I mean, and others I haven't even talked about, but yeah, it's
so many.
light.
The pixel artists, like pixel art artists, like there's many unsung heroes were involved in that process.
It's almost like you got to pull out a bingo card every time you mention Chrono Trigger, because it's like, how many like tropes do I have to use to describe this thing? Lightning in a bottle, you know? It's like I was this close to almost saying that unironically, and I was like, you know what? No, it's all been said at this point, and it's just funny.
My friends and I were geeking out over it on the ride home from the Final Fantasy concert that I was talking about. Yeah,
nice.
we were just geeking out over all these like amazing games. Okay, I've got, and I've had since got a little bit more questions. Let me ask the next one. And this is in regards to your secret projects. And again, if you don't want to say anything about it, that's perfectly fine. But it's a comment in the question. The comment is saying, hey, I remember a lot of AI news was starting to hit the center mass of humanity as this game came on Steam. So it was neat to have a game focused on ethics, safety, and technological balance alongside the news. So that was the comment. So thank you so much for that. They were wondering if there may be some kind of AI element to or discussion thereof in your secret projects. And again, don't have to answer if you don't want to.
So not in the projects I'm working on now. The idea I have for an 8-bit Adventures 3 would definitely touch on that.
I see.
I think it would make that probably more of a focus than it, has been before. So you're probably thinking on similar lines to what I'm thinking there.
Interesting. All right.
I'm telling you, man, you guys are hearing 3 for the first time from James here. Just saying.
It's not like
it's not.
It is like an idea on a Word document, but that's it.
Wink, wink.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm envisioning a big bad evil guy that has like misshapen hands.
I'm willing to take a wager with anyone right now that 8-bit Adventure 3 will come out before Half-Life 3. I'm just saying that I will wager that.
I mean, if 8-bit Adventures 2 makes a good return on console, then I'd say that's probably a safe bet.
Speaking of new game, speaking of new games, if you could make an entirely new game, just imagining it, right? Like, never mind all the development and all the crazy logistics involved. What would be the definitive dream game be like for you? And and how each feature ended up being chosen might be hard to answer.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, if you can just wave a magic wand and just whatever you have up here just become reality,
I mean, probably like the dream game for me would probably be like a PS1, like Final Fantasy IX style JRPG, where it's like you just have that budget just to, these amazing looking environments and vistas and, sort of that level of fidelity, like the CGI cutscenes for the storytelling, like all the things that cost Square millions of dollars at the time. I think that would be really fun. But just in general, like I love the pre-rendered background style of the PS1. And I think we kind of lost something by not having, like, JRPGs used to be associated with these really cool camera angles. to like frame every moment of the story and every area you were in.
Yeah.
And you know, as much as I love being able to walk around an area in third person, we've completely lost that. Like most of the time, you're fighting with the camera in like a 7 remake situation, rather than like admiring this amazing artistic creation.
Yeah.
So I'd love to do something that just like had that, like brought that pre-rendered background style back, and you know, that really high end, you know, SquareSoft.
I know, man.
That polish.
ReFantazio, or not ReFantazio.
Fantasia.
Fantasian gave me that.
Fantasia.
Yeah.
Oh, it was nice to
love
experience
Fantasian.
that again for the first time in a long time.
I think doing dioramas, you know, because Sakaguchi had already talked about, you know, decades ago, like Final Fantasy games being like a miniature garden, I think was the phrase he used.
Yeah.
But like just basically this idea of sort of like everything was like in miniature, and it was like this sort of way of telling the story that wasn't completely realistic. You know, it was using that abstraction we talked about.
Yeah.
And so I feel like Fantasian is like such a natural way to go, you know, do a new take on that.
Oh,
Definitely.
it's a gorgeous game, and I cannot wait to play it not on an Apple device.
Okay.
Cannot wait. We've got one more question, and this is more just a fun question. So just to bring us home a little bit. What is your favorite Final Fantasy class? Class, not a character. What's your favorite Final Fantasy class?
So I like Dark Knights because they're cool, but I also don't necessarily use them very often because they usually just end up killing themselves in my body.
Oh my god, yes.
You know, I mean, obviously, like there's Mimic in 5, which is just amazing because of the fact that you can just mix and match classes with it. So like Mimic is obviously the cop-out answer.
The mime, right? Yeah.
So yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the one that just copies abilities. Yep.
Yeah, so you basically can choose like 2 abilities from 2 different classes you've mastered.
Yep.
That's cool.
I mean, that's what everyone ends up using at the end of 5. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely like I've always really liked the design of the Dragoon. I think that's one of like Final Fantasy's most unique. I think that's an Amano design, isn't it? Originally, the shape of it.
Don't know. I think Dragoon first came out on 4, right? That was when Dragoon first was.
Yeah,
no, Dragoons were in 3 as a class.
3. I'm sorry, 3, not 4. 3. Yes.
Okay.
The wrong number there.
See, I never played 3.
Though, I think. Actually, no. There was a Dragoon in 2.
Was there Dragoon in 2?
Yeah.
Well, I never played 2 either.
Yeah,
you go through this whole story with his
2.
His pet dragon.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
I didn't really answer the question though, but like probably like Dragoon, Dark Knight. I mean, yeah, Final Fantasy 4 was like left a big impact on me when I played it. So
very nice. Yeah, Dragoon is super cool. I think for me it's a summoner. I just love sending out, doing just massive damage on default. Like, never mind the MP cost. Like, I don't care. Like, I'll pop up an ether. That's fine. Like, just give me my Bahamut and my Leviathan and just like wreak havoc.
I've been so far removed from Final Fantasy for a while now, but I remember one of my favorite characters. I can't remember who they are now, but they were unique in that they were able to use 2 swords at the same time. It was like a 16-bit game. I want to say it was 4, where the character had the ability to do that, and I can't remember.
Edge Ninja.
Yeah, maybe it was Edge. It was really super cool though.
It has a little throwing weapon as well.
Yeah, so that was, I think, maybe my favorite at the time. But
Ninja is a cool one.
It does occur to me that we have used up a lot more of your time today than I expected to, and I apologize for that. I hope that you had your
not a problem at all.
Okay, cool. Well, so that's all of the questions that I had, and that's a lot of questions.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you so much for being on. The time really got away from us, but yeah, thank you. I guess I do have one final question that I should ask, because this is one of my favorite questions to ask. Is there anything that I didn't ask today that you really feel like, man, that was a missed opportunity? He should have asked this question. Anything that I didn't ask that you would like to talk about?
I mean, there's all sorts of things. Like we could talk about like the battle system and sort of like. One thing I've started to talk about more that I really like about the battles in 8-Bit Adventures 2 is just that, like, how sort of in Final Fantasy VII, for example, you have 3 party members and you're sort of stuck with them. Well, one of the great things that Final Fantasy X did was it not only did it include your whole party in cutscenes, but it included the whole party in the gameplay as well.
Yeah.
So you could swap characters out at any time without wasting a turn. So that's something that I really want to incorporate in 8-Bit Adventures 2, and so you can swap between all 7 characters at any point without like wasting any turn or anything like that. And so what that means is that you can come up with strategies that like use all 7 characters like in some sort of perfect harmony in a single battle. And
wow,
I'm really proud of like how that turned out and how players have like used some of those systems just to pull off some ludicrous strategies.
I love it.
So I think if you're someone that likes like the Final Fantasy X style of conditional turn-based, I think this is a cool take on it.
Oh man,
that was my favorite thing about Final Fantasy X. So
it is
I'm so happy to hear that.
I mean, there's a lot to like about 10, but yeah, the combat system is definitely top tier. All right. Well, hey, thanks again so much for coming on here. It has been a pleasure. Where should people find you right now to keep aware of where they can buy 8-Bit Adventures 2 when it does come out?
Yes, so you can follow me at Critical Games AU on Twitter. Basically, if you type 8-Bit Adventures 2 into Google, you'll find everything I've ever done. But I mean, really, just if you go to the Switch eShop, if you go to the PlayStation Store, if you go to the Xbox Store, like you can find the game. You can wishlist it on Switch and Xbox. You can download a demo. There's a demo coming to PlayStation, but it got delayed by behind the scenes things. So that's going to come out on the 19th.
Awesome.
So yeah, but no, if you want to give the game a go on console, you can do that. And yeah, obviously it's on Steam and GOG and itch and all the places on PC.
Go wishlist it, guys. It makes it does a big help wherever you decide to wishlist it. So awesome.
Yeah, no, it is really helpful. So thank you everyone for your time. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you for coming on here. Which, by the way, we didn't mention this, but you might have been able to hear. Like, Josh is all the way over in Australia, in the land down under, and it is awfully early in the morning for him. So thank you so much for waking up early.
It's not as bad for me as it was for your last Australian guest. It's 1:45 now, so we're fine.
Wonderful.
Okay, that makes me feel slightly better. But thank you so much for your time.
All right. Well, take care, man, and we'll talk to you later on.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.
All right. Well, that was Josh, everyone. Again, is 8-Bit Adventures 2 console launch October 16th on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and the Switch. The game is available on Steam if you don't feel like waiting.
All right. That was a really fun interview. It was great to have Josh on. We still have a show left.
We still have a show. Did you guys know that?
This was originally planned to be like a 1-hour interview, and it went out for 1 hour and 40, but we have a whole rest of the show to get through. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the updates to some past releases that we have coming up here. Let's see.
Yes, I forgot to color code.
That's all right. I'll take this first one here.
Wait a second. Yes. Okay. Go for it.
So, developer Polychroma have announced that they are going to be releasing a free update to their adventure game called Until Then. And it's going to add many fixes, they say, quality of life improvements, as well as a bonus post-credit scene that would play after the true ending. The game is currently sitting with about 3,300 overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. So that's the game, again, Until Then. And that's a free patch that has a bunch of cool stuff.
Yeah. This game, we talked about this game a couple of times. So for those who might not remember, Until Then is set in the Philippines, which is an unusual setting for video games. Yeah, that's the one that's set in the Philippines. So we've got another game that's set in similar. That one is called The Space for the Inbound, and that one is set in Indonesia.
Yes, that's the one.
So
Okay.
this one is the Philippine one. And I played a little bit of it, and it was the story is just gripping. I I haven't had time to get back to it yet, but I'm really waiting for it. But I'm glad that they are, still making updates to a already very successful game. They're not just taking your money and saying, yeah, you know what, you get what you get, right? Like, no, they're still making all kinds of improvements, even with the overwhelmingly positive review on Steam, and is only available on Steam. I think actually, is it only available on Steam? No, they're releasing it on console later on,
PS3.
but
Yeah, PlayStation's definitely getting it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
see it. Yeah.
Yeah, they have it on. Okay, but for now, this patch is just coming to Steam, but you can expect it to come to other places later on.
Awesome.
All right. Next up, we've got some follow-up news to this game that was shadow dropped by Spike Chunsoft called BAKERU. We talked about this briefly at some point. It is a 3D action game that's very similar, or well, I say similar, but it's taken inspiration from Goemon. Remember that one?
Yeah,
yeah.
It sounded familiar. Okay. Yes. BAKERU is so cool looking with the drums.
So yeah, no, that game was super cool looking, and I think that maybe because the game is actually pretty well received right now, that Spike Chunsoft just announced that they will be doing a physical release after all.
Oh,
yeah, I know, because that was the thing that kind of held me back, because I don't really want to buy a game that's just
ethereal like that.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, like as Josh had mentioned, physical release will be really rough for an indie developer. I totally understand. But Spike Chunsoft is not an indie developer.
No.
So I'm like, well, are you going to do a physical there? And it turns out they will. So they are looking to release the physical edition of BAKERU for the Switch on February 25th next year for North America and Europe. I don't know about the rest of the world, but if they're going to do a physical release, chances are they will do something similar. But if not, you can always just pick up the European or North American version for all of our English-speaking audience. Hopefully, it will suffice. But yeah, this game looks incredible, and I've been sort of on the fence because of the digital only. But now that I know it's coming to physical, I am going to pre-order that thing as soon as I can.
Oh man. So I think you should probably also talk about this next one. I feel like it belongs to you, this next piece of news.
Okay, fine, Derek.
I could talk about it, but I feel like
I was hoping you'd talk about it so I can shame you after this, but that's fine.
Okay, well.
I was trying to set you up for this, but I'll do it. That's fine. I'll still shame you afterwards. So, Limited Run Games announced that they will be releasing the physical edition, the physical standard and limited edition of Yakuza Kiwami for PS4, Xbox, and the Switch. So 3 different systems. Additionally, they have also announced that they will be releasing this physical standard and limited edition for the rest of Kiryu's arc. So Kiryu's arc spans from Yakuza 0 to Yakuza 6.
Yeah.
Right? So they're doing Kiwami right now, which is just right after 0, but before the rest of the games. They're doing this limited edition. You can pre-order it right now. But they will be doing the same thing for the other 6 games. Basically, there's 7 games in this collection, and every one of these games. And here's the cool thing about it, though, for anyone who might be interested, is that all of these will come in this case, and when you get all 7 of them, you put them together, and all the cases will line up to be kind of, how those encyclopedia from back then.
Oh, it's like my Dragon Ball Z box set, the orange bricks.
Yes, it's like that.
Or all of the... there was also a bunch of Bruce Lee movies that would also do that together.
Yes, yes, it's like that. So the boxes, you line them up on a shelf, and it draws like a thing.
The Dot Hack series also does that.
That's right.
Yes. Okay, cool. I love that. It's always a nice little attention to detail there.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. And also the acrylic figure that comes with the box also links up to like, like you can see a transformation of Kiryu over time. So I think that's also pretty cool. So for anyone who is interested in that, they are taking pre-order for Kiwami. And that is all the news that we have for updates to previous releases. We don't really have any games that are being released this coming week, but we will have a lot next week. But for now, we do have some new game announcements we can touch on.
All right. So let's go ahead and start off with this one from the publisher Indie.io, who've announced a new open-ended minimalist RPG called Everholm, where the player will follow protagonist Lily in her search for her lost sister, Melanie. In her search, Lily happens upon a magical portal that isekais her into Everholm, an island where everyone seems to somehow know her. I don't know, that sounds like my worst nightmare. The worst version of the Cheers isekai. Where everybody knows her name. Okay, let's go ahead and check out the trailer and see if it's as nightmarish as I suspect.
I mean, will there be a bar in there? Because if there is, that's a warning sign.
I don't know, man. Is this? Wait, am I on the right one? This is
nope.
This is not it.
I got it.
This is it. Ignore what you just saw.
Really pretty. It's a really pretty like RPG. It's got a little bit of that Celeste kind of art, and also a little bit like farmer simi.
Yeah, a little bit of what's the?
But it's also on a diagonal instead of like a head-on like
isometric
game called? Yeah,
kind of a it's indescribable. No, I can't remember what it is that I'm trying to think of though. Kind of like Farmville. I mean, no, not Farmville. So
that's a really pretty game.
It does remind me somewhat of like an isometric version of that really popular farming sim game.
I can't think of the title either. I'm like,
my friend is gonna, yeah, he plays through this game constantly. Like, oh god, I can remember the name of the Ghost Chocolate Factory, the game that like is in progress, but.
What is it? Stardew Valley. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeez, it's like an isometric Stardew. It looks like that anyway.
Kind of. But I think the more it's definitely got a more of an RPG focus. So here's what the developer basically said is rather than going in and just like leveling, smashing things and fighting things, this one's going to focus more on just like building relationship with the people in the town. It's going to be a little bit more cozy of an RPG.
Yeah.
So this would probably be right for someone who like enjoys a little bit of RPG, but wants something that's a little bit more chill. Maybe don't like actually go and fight an evil god in the end necessally.
I mean, you can if you want to.
Well, if yes, absolutely, you can absolutely fight a god in any RPG. That's a given.
Of course, it's what one does.
Probably more for like the Atelier crowd, I want to say. Like so for the Atelier games that I played are just like a little bit lower stake, and little less battle focused. And there's battle, and it is a very rich system in there, but you're definitely more focused on your relationship with the townsfolks and whatnot. So that game looks really cool, and I wanted to share that. So this is coming out when, Mr. Derek?
Oh, sorry. So this was Everholm, right? That's coming out on the 11th of November, and it launches on PC via Steam.
Gotcha. Man.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry, I broke all the conventions and now we're all lost on the dock.
No worries. I'll take the next one. From indie.io. This is a new action adventure game called Mentari, where the player must heal a frozen world with the power of dance. Let's take a look at the trailer.
All right. Let's check this out.
I'm laughing, but I think it's a really cool game, but it's just
the power of dance compels you.
The power of dance.
I mean, it's a pretty game. Love the vibes. Cozy.
So, yeah, so the premise of the game is that, there used to be a very vibrant world, and then, like, there's something called the stillness just, like, invaded, and everyone just stops moving, loses all their colors. And you're sort of in the journey to like heal the townsfolk from being possessed by like the stillness through your dance.
Yeah,
magical dance. So it's a different kind of like RPG element. Like, it's not every RPG needs to be like destroying your foe or slashing them down and doing only slashes to everyone. And yeah, there are other ways to approach an RPG, and I appreciate the their take on it.
Yeah. All right.
Different game mechanics. So there's no release date as of yet on this thing, but it is currently being developed for PC via Steam. We'll let you all know if we hear more news on this.
All right. Well, next up, from Italian studio Destiny Bit, they've announced what they are calling a spaghetti anime, a tactical RPG called NITRO Gen Omega that blends cinematic mech battles, team management, and sandbox RPG elements, they say.
Yes.
I hope it also combines some element of spaghetti, but I guess we're going to find out. Let's check out the trailer.
Let's do it.
If this does not contain spaghetti, I'm going to be disappointed.
I think they're calling that because of spaghetti western.
Yeah, I think so too. Or maybe because it's there, from Italy.
So, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. Like the calling this spaghetti, because spaghetti westerns, like,
yeah,
what is it called? Like,
well, it's called a spaghetti western because they were Western movies that were filmed within Italy instead of like the American West. So this would be a spaghetti anime because it's an anime that is made in Italy as opposed to Japan. So that's clever.
Yeah, for those who don't know what spaghetti western means, probably didn't catch like what spaghetti anime meant. Also, Derek, you're cutting in and out during the trailer. I have no idea why.
I don't know why either. I think it's some of.
We'll figure it out after this. Yeah.
Yeah.
The most professional podcast.
Gotta
as
love
long
it.
as the audience can hear us, I hear you rather, or us good. I think we're okay.
All right. Well, anyways, the game is slated for release sometime in 2025 for PC via Steam. Right. No boiling water required. So that's about the end of the new games that were announced. It's been a little bit light in that front, but we have a couple of pretty interesting industry-related things to talk about here.
That's right.
So let's just dive into this one because this is one that makes me quite happy.
Oh yeah.
Metaphor ReFantazio has apparently sold over 1 million copies worldwide, which is fantastic. That's very many games, no matter how you slice it, for just like the first week since it was released. It came out earlier this week and it sold over. And on top of that, it has been received very well critically. It is currently sitting at a 93 from on Metacritic from all of the not developers, all the game reviewers, the people who give scores and stuff, with 0 negative reviews from critics. Even 90% of user reviews are positive on Metacritic, which is more than Persona 5 Royal, which scores arguably comparably to like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy 7. So this is it's ranking up there. So it feels like this is a big one. And dare I say that I called it? I mean,
they say turn-based is dead. Just every time I see this, I'm just like, and they said turn-based is dead. Give me a break.
Yeah, I think this feels huge. I mean, maybe not like, I don't know, Call of Duty numbers or anything, but for like something that is relatively niche, the turn-based RPG market, just the first week, I think this outsells even like other big Atlas games like Persona 5. I don't think it did as well out the gate. It did well, but maybe not quite. I might be misremembering, but this feels huge.
I mean, I just hope that they keep climbing.
I hope so.
Doing better and better. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that what is it? Unicorn Overlord celebrated 1 million total sale. But at that point for Unicorn Overlord, they had released for a couple of months, right? Like this is 1 week. For ReFantazio.
It's been 1 week since you released the game. Okay, sorry.
That's dare I say this is really Fantasio for ReFantazio.
Oh, you did it. You went there. Baku, what have I done to you?
What have you done to me? Why am I like this now? Just 2 years of doing this show with you, and I'm all like, all punny now.
Oh man.
Crazy.
So I guess one of the things that I'm curious about, it felt like for a while this game was kind of flying under the radar for a lot of people. So this surprises me because when I was in New York and I was talking to Lady Pelvic and Max from Dreamcast Guy, we were talking about this, it felt like it was going to be big, but it also felt like a lot of people didn't know about it. And we were concerned. I guess that our concerns were unfounded. But what do you think were some of the contributing factors to this overwhelming response at this point? Like how did it do so well, seemingly from what it felt like? It felt like nowhere.
I've always thought that the days of commercials and just these kind of TV advertisement is over, for at least from my perspective as a consumer. Because I don't ever buy things that are advertised to me on TV. I get annoyed when I see TV ads, in fact.
I mean, I don't see TV ads because I don't have cable.
So not even like TV ads per se. I'm just calling them TV ads because it's the same ads you would see them on TV, but like they will have the exact same ads for like YouTube video, for example. Like, or in the middle of a Twitch stream, like you will see those same, like the exact same ads that you would see on TV. I'm just calling all of these like the TV ads, right? Basically, they'll hire some actors, they'll have a skit, they'll do something. But the point of it is to get the game out there, right? It's part of your advertisement effort. I get that. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have any of that, but I'm just saying they are becoming increasingly ineffective.
It does feel like they've been doing other avenues of advertisements this time around. And I think I was involved in one of those.
You're part of that advertisement campaign, right? Like, I mean, they've got us to talk about it, and among many other people. But the point of the matter is, this is a good game that
helps a lot.
People can get behind, like, and that is the fundamental thing is, have you made a good product that people will genuinely get behind? Because here's the thing about social currencies is, what gets people to share is that it is something good, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of snowballs. Like if I'm going to share something with someone and I care about their opinion of me, I'm going to share something good with you that I believe in it. And I'm saying, yeah, this is good. And it's not going to hurt my reputation for saying so, right? Like that's just human nature. So many influencers, or I mean, maybe I'm a little reluctant to say influencers, but just people who are in this field, right? And they're respected, their opinions are respected for, say, RPGs. They're all just unanimously going like, this game is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So fundamentally, it had to be a good product to begin with, right?
Yep. I was gonna say
And
it does seem like with some marketing teams, what they're trying to do is achieve the result irrespective of the input. Like they want to see the likes, they want to see the shares, they want to see the enthusiasm, and but they haven't got, the marketing team doesn't have influence over the quality of the game, but they want to see the same output from certain influencers regardless of the game. But in this case, it certainly helps that the game feels special,
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's a big part of it, is that it's
you've
good
got
to begin
Yoko Taro
with.
saying like this game actually feels next gen. Now, say what you want about how you feel about it, but that's gotta got someone interested in looking at it, and then that person plays it, and then they're like, "Oh my god, this is incredible! I have to talk about it. I am so compelled to tell you about it. Is how great it is. Fundamentally, it has to be a good game still." Because if it's not, then I don't feel compelled to do so. I'll be like, it's all right. You don't even have to play it. It's fine. It's whatever.
Dude, can I tell you right now?
Yeah.
I have been playing through a game that I cannot talk about. But I feel like it is a possible third contender for Game of the Year this year.
Oh, wait, what's the first one?
I mean, I feel like as far as JRPGs goes, there's like the big three. And the first one is probably I haven't played it, but Final Fantasy VII.
Rebirth. Got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like
okay.
that's probably gonna be big contender number one for the JRPG scene. Then Metaphor ReFantazio, and then this other thing that I'm sitting on. That's yeah. So be excited, because this is a great year. It's a great year for JRPGs.
We've been saying that quite a bit. Like these past couple of years has been amazing.
Yeah, it has been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. All right.
So you want to take on this next one?
Yeah. Well, actually, before that, is there something that you feel like has contributed to this overwhelming response that you haven't had a chance to throw in?
I feel like we've touched like the main pieces. Is that it is first legitimately good, and that second, Atlas is taking a different approach to marketing. It feels like this time around they've also done a lot of videos showcasing the game. So I feel like gosh, they've done a lot, like just showcasing different aspects of the game a few different times over the last several weeks. So many. They've definitely been putting money into the marketing on YouTube, and I think that that's smart, because I feel like that's where people are. At least that's where I am, and so that's where I'm seeing it. And as someone who is part of their target, our audience, I think, I think that has been successful. I just still, I guess I lacked faith that they were going to be this big, and
right.
And oh me of little faith, I suppose, huh?
Well, well, there are two things. One is, but for anyone who might be joining us now, we are on our we're in the middle of moving this podcast over to the HitPoint channel. So if you had not followed us there, please consider doing so. We are so close to getting Derek to play a horror game this month. If we can hit 500 subscriber over to the other channel, we're definitely going to get. I will personally sponsor Derek to play Silent Hill 2. That's my pick. Although he has his own pick, I want to get him to play Silent Hill 2. The other thing is that. Sorry.
I mean, yep.
Sorry. I was gonna say the other thing is that we were doing like a mirrored stream over at the new channel. Unfortunately, we were running into some issues. So the new video should pop back up later on. If you have any comments, please consider putting that in the new channel, because that's where we'll be catching your comments on for us to read, because that's where we're gonna keep the VOD, basically. So definitely head on over there. I'll type in the new channel in a minute. But then the reason why I'm bringing all this up is because I want to ask the chat, like, or if you're watching this later in the VOD, what do you feel is contributing to this overwhelming success? It is it's an interesting case as like a consumer, and also just like as a business case. I think that's something that developers like Capcom or Square Enix will really want to pay attention and try to emulate. That they did something incredible here, and they can definitely learn from it, right? So
there, and I just pinned that comment there.
Thank you so
there
much
we go.
For that. All right, let me get that next one. Ooh, this next one is huge, guys.
I haven't heard anything about this, so
you did not. Okay, so this is during the pre-show. I was talking to Derek, and Derek's like, if the RPG Weekly update is anything to go by, I think this show is going to be pretty light. And I'm like, did you not hear about what happened with Gamefreak? He's like, what happened with Gamefreak? So here's what happened. So late last night, a large amount of data from Gamefreak were leaked onto the interweb, which has now been dubbed the Terror Leak. The breach was first made public again late last night when files began to circulate on this social media platform called on Reddit, basically, called PokeLeaks, right? And there were lots of content that were just leaked out onto PokeLeaks on Reddit. Material shared includes never before seen concept arts, development documents, internal files that dates back like over 25 years. It's huge. It's a huge leak. Lots of data. What else is leaked? Source codes for some DS titles, including Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Actual full game source codes were leaked. Oh yeah. No, this is huge. And maybe part of that like confirms the legitimacy of what was leaked, because this is not like a tiny prank. Like,
no, you could not accidentally end up with the source code for
this is like a big freaking deal, right?
That's
so what they had also basically confirmed is that Pokemon Legends ZA is basically already complete, is what was leaked. However, instead of launching this year in 2024, it was pushed back to 2025, basically confirming the suspicion that it is being timed for the Switch 2 release. But basically ZA is already done. They're just waiting for the Switch 2 console to come out. There's also a Gen 10 game codenamed Gaia that is being developed for Switch 2 that has also been leaked. There apparently was at least an MMO being developed. Whether or not that comes out, of course, we don't know, but there's evidence that points to like an MMO being developed at some point or another. Man, just lots of leaked materials. And one thing that stuck out to me actually is that it also covers transcriptions of meetings between Gamefreak and the Pokemon Company. So not only were they talking about not only does this leak involve like games and data leak, but also like the anime and everything. One that actually caught my attention was a conversation between Game Freak and the Pokemon Company talking about the departure of Ash Ketchum as the character.
Yeah.
Because regardless how you feel about Ash over the years, he is a fairly beloved character, and to remove him from that and then bring on these two new protagonists for Horizon, they were genuinely worried of the backlash. So much so that they worried about like arson attacks, like death threats and all that.
Well,
So
I
it
can
is a big
understand.
conversation.
There have
Yeah,
been
so
arsons for less.
right. Thankfully, the it went pretty smoothly, and no one was sending them death threats and stuff. But they were genuinely worried about retiring Ash from the show after like what 20 some years of the show running.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So
Thing
man,
is, I'm waiting to hear. I'm waiting for someone to data mine this and find Game Freak like complaining or begging the Nintendo company or the Pokemon company for some fundage to like make better games. I swear this has to be.
Oh,
I don't want. Gosh, I just don't want anybody getting in trouble over this. I mean, maybe the hacker, but for real, like I can envision some very damning stuff like potentially being in there.
Yeah.
Because you know that Game Freak cannot be content or happy with the fact that they have been making some of the best-selling games of all time on a continuously underfunded shoestring budget. Like
it's crazy.
Like I feel so bad for that development team. There has to be
best-selling games. It is Nintendo's best-selling games. Nothing even comes close. Not Mario, not Zelda, not Metroid.
It's
Pokemon.
Yeah,
it's the best-selling game.
The best-selling, game. Oh, not even just RPG, just game.
No, period. Yeah, Nintendo game. Period.
It is wild. And it's still being run like a sweatshop.
It's and I thought that they were well funded. They were not. To my surprise, because I'm just like, well, they're so successful. Of course, they're treated like royalties. They're not.
No,
not even close. In fact, they were facing some like they had to cut staff down, if anything.
You would think they would be like, you treat the goose that lays the golden egg well, but apparently
you would think that.
Apparently not. So, anyways, this is not good, and I just hope. I mean, I just hope that it doesn't end up having any repercussions on the staff of Game Freak, because they've got it hard enough as it is,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, maybe teach Nintendo what happens when you keep cutting staff. I mean, look, I'd love to.
They cut the IT department.
Well, yeah, I that's the thing. You don't know what they cut. You know, like they just keep cutting staff. I mean, did they cut developer? Did they cut like just IT professionals that don't necessarily do game development? We don't know, right? But they just keep cutting staff, right?
Yeah,
that's what we do know. So but anyways, but to your point, like, about data mining and whatnot, like here's the thing, the leak is still ongoing. These are just things that I can find. The leak has not stopped. Like there's still more that hackers are slowly like leaking out. So this very well could just be like the first wave of things. There might be more things that come. So it is the developing situation. Don't take this as like the be all end all list. Like, oh well, but how come you didn't talk about this? They could have released something just this second, and I wouldn't necessarily know about it, right? But as of the writing of this, those are what we do know has been leaked. We will be following this situation very closely and see whether or not there are more newsworthy leak anyways, and not just like, oh yeah, well there's a there's a game coming. It's like, well, yeah, we knew that. Yeah, and there are some finer things that I didn't touch on just because it's a lot of stuff that has been leaked.
Leaks of this scale, oh man,
Yeah, no, it's huge.
It's not just huge from like a video game perspective though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's keep in mind there are real people who work there. And, and it's entirely possible that personal information, HR records, things that.
Speaking of that, ooh, speaking of that, absolutely, personal informations were involved. Absolutely, personal informations were involved. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Obviously, we're not gonna touch on, what leaks were there, because of obvious reasons. But what we can say is that about 2,600 pieces of personal information were involved in the breach, including employees' names and contact information, among other things that they did not elaborate on. And so yeah, so Gamefreak, apparently they knew that this leak may come. And a couple of days ago, prior to the leak, they actually made an official statement already saying that there was a data breach back in August. So it's not even like now in October. It was like 2 months ago that the breach happened.
Okay.
And they acknowledged that. I mean, they didn't acknowledge the leaked content, but they did acknowledge that personal informations were taken. And so they will be contacting affected employees individually. I mean, I think they're trying to do the right thing. But yeah, it's as Derek say, this is not just about like, oh wow, they leaked information about games. Like, no, like employee informations are in those data that has been basically taken. So it could get really bad.
Wow, that's tragic.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Again, developing situation. We'll be following that. If anything else huge comes up, we'll be sure to let you all know.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. A little bit of a downer, but hey, let's talk about some community news, because we got some pretty cool stuff coming around the corner that might help me not feel like terrible stuff is happening.
Take this one and then you can take the next one.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, because I know nothing about the last one.
That's fine. That's fine.
So, we don't always talk about fan and community projects, but I think this one is super cool, and I do want to bring this up. So, a Dino Crisis fan has taken it upon himself to recreate the 1999 game using Unreal Engine 5. Sorry, this one-man studio named Steven Game Studios calls this Dino Crisis Rebirth. Wow. Must be a fan of Final Fantasy VII, though, I think.
Maybe so.
And the demo is actually available on itch.io.
Oh god.
So if you want to go play,
go get it
now before they get a
C&D.
Yeah. Okay, but let's take a look at the trailer so that you can see what this game is like, shall we? Or this demo.
Yeah, let's see if the video is still up.
We got C&D. Oh no, it's still playing.
Oh, cool.
In-game footage.
Alpha version. Okay. So I've never played Dino Crisis before, so...
You never played Dino Crisis?
Nah.
Because you're cutting in and out again. Sorry, Derek, I can't hear you. Are you guys able to see this video okay, though? It's super cool. I mean, for a one-person team, that's pretty dope.
Yeah, that's pretty wild, for sure.
Yeah, this is just a fan, by the way, guys. Okay, like this is not some like professional team like of animators and developers working on this. This is one person, one very dedicated fan. I kind of like I know dinosaurs don't actually look like that, but I kind of like the cheesy like Jurassic Park dinosaur.
Me too. By the way, I made a change to my audio settings. Am I still cutting in and out?
Also, Derek, I still can't hear you, but I can probably talk to you after the trailer because I can hear you again. It's Rebirth project. Okay, the chat can hear you, which is fantastic. Yeah, that's what matters. What matters is you guys can hear Derek. I don't know what's going on with our sound today. We haven't had this issue. Actually, not even before.
Dinoc rises.
Rebirth. I can hear you again. All right.
I don't know what happened with Discord being weird. But hey, as long as everybody else can hear me, I guess that's... Yeah. I guess
we'll investigate into issues. We have some audio issues today here and over in... what is it called? The HitPoint channel. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for bearing with us, guys.
Yeah. Best show ever.
Most professional podcast.
But here,
that does it better.
I'll tell you though, Illusion of Gaia. You guys remember that game? The cool game that came out in the United States on the Super Nintendo came from Quintet. Oh, yeah, you remember Illusion of Gaia? Well, so it got a fan translation, sort of. Remake-ish. It's complicated, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. So this retranslation, there's a demo available right now from Gaia Labs featuring a retranslation by a person called Elthami, who is a forum member on the Reset Era forums, as well as like a creator of a YouTube channel that features a playthrough of Illusion of Gaia with a fully translated, like, closed captions. So if you go over to his channel, turn on closed captions, watch that playthrough, like they've hand translated all of the on-screen text, which is pretty cool. So if you ever just wanted to, like, go watch a playthrough and understand Illusion of Gaia on a better level, you could do that. Or you could wait a little bit longer for this full retranslation patch to be finished. So currently the project aims to bring those translation efforts directly into a playable patch of Illusion of Gaia. Right now, there's a demo available. It came out on the 30th anniversary of the game's North American launch, which was the first. So I'm a little bit behind on this, on telling y'all about it, but it goes through the end of the South Cape section of the game, which is, a few hours in. So the current demo project is available on a GitHub page because, as y'all know about, romhacking.net, not really... it's not really... you can't do anything new there anymore except for the forums or something. Anyways, go, just do a Google search. It'll pull it up. But you can look up like IOG retranslation on GitHub. That'll also probably pull it up. Yeah. So that's another fan project that I am personally very stoked for because while Illusion of Gaia was a fun game, and so was Soul Blazer, the localizations were, they were a little bit lackluster. They were products of their times. Especially Illusion of Gaia, which kind of switches between first and third person randomly at times. It's just kind of like, really? Oh, what's going on here? Anyways, it's exciting. I cannot wait. But the full relocalization thing, that's still happening. So the demo's out. Go check it out.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Fun.
That's super awesome. Yeah, guys, we don't do like fan community news often, but when we do, it's like something really cool happening. And we got two in the same show. That's incredible.
Oh man. So I think I need to update this one here. Whoa, nope, not that. Wrong button. Hang on. That's the wrong button. Oh geez, gotta wait for that to go. There we go. All right, here's the one. This is what I need to. Here we go.
Yes.
That's the one I wanted to do. It. We rearranged everything, so I'm all out of sorts. So we finally made it towards the end of the show, and we wanted to talk about some of the comments and stuff that we got from last week's podcast. So yeah, I pulled some aside, and this one comes from viewer Nerd Crave, who says it's confusing to have 2 copies of this in my feed. Shows me Derek's channel, and I have to manually search for this one. This one being the HP Pod channel. They say, either way, I'm a weekly listener. And I appreciate that, Nerd Crave. Very much appreciated. Yeah, so the 2 simultaneous streams is... it's unfortunate, because it does split the audience, which kind of slows the process of migrating. And the thing is, I think we have a really good set of core listeners and watchers on the Super Derek channel. We gotta get them moved over. And I think that as soon as we're just consolidated on the HP Pod channel, link is currently in the chat. As soon as we finish that, it'll take off even better over there. But it's just gotta build up that initial 500 subscribers so that we can continue going full steam over there. That's a big aspect of this transition, that we're trying to hit a critical mass, and then we will stop streaming on the Super Derek channel. So if you're here now, and if you're subscribed to Super Derek but not HP Pod, you might want to go do that.
That's right.
With the added incentive that I might play. Well, if we hit 500 subscribers this month, was that the stipulation?
Yes, this month. So we have 15 days to get 50 subscribers. 15 days.
Yeah,
15 days to make it happen.
Yeah, and considering we did that in 1 week already, just of incentivizing people, I think that's been really useful. Yeah, and yeah, so go check it out. Go over there and subscribe. So thank you, Nerd Crave, for giving us an excuse to plug the HP Pod channel.
Yes, thank you so much for that. All right, next up we've got Razor X090 says, my favorite podcast. I am now at the point where I play far more indies than AAA for both price and content. Thank you so much for that comment. Yeah, no, absolutely.
That felt super relevant to today's conversation. Yeah. So,
I think I mentioned this before too. Like 3 years ago, like before I started doing HitPoint, I don't think I played that many indies, and even if I did, it would be because it's been out for a while and someone had really recommended it, and like it had to be like super highly recommended.
It had to be something like Undertale, basically, right?
Yeah, basically like super
had to be a cult classic.
It has to be like basically. But now that has not been the case. Now I'm playing a lot more indies. I'm streaming a lot more indies.
Not me, not that one.
Well, the nice thing about streaming indie games, for anyone who is a streamer in here right now, is that the nice thing about indie games is you can go from story to story with limited stream time because they're shorter.
Yeah.
You can finish these games a lot quicker and tell a very concrete, good story and experience that with your audience much faster than like a AAA game could. Unfortunately, like just speaking from experience, like look, if I'm streaming a Trails game, and a lot of people do well streaming those, but they're like 100 plus 20-hour games, and let's say you're streaming modest 3 to 5 hours a night, and that's like pretty average. Even if you're doing 5 hours, let's say you're doing 5 hours, how many stream is that, right? Like like you're doing at least 20 streams, 20 different days,
assuming that you don't lose any progress or like get lost in between streams.
Assuming you don't lose any progress, and that's assuming you stream daily, and most of us don't have that kind of time, right? You have other things to do in life, so it just drags out over months to do a AAA or more AAA game, rather than indies that could go to maybe like 20 to 30 hours. right? So you can finish it within like 5 streams. And move on to like a new story, completely new story, completely different things, and everyone can just experience that first time with you again. It's been kind of a life changer as a streamer to mix in indies. I've got to say, some indies I can finish in a single stream.
Yeah,
like start to
it's pretty
finish.
awesome.
Everyone just experience it all, and they don't have to like worry about forgetting any details in the story. That's a big part. Is not just you forgetting things, but your audience forget.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know,
or maybe they missed the first stream, so they can't show up to the second. Yeah.
For one reason or another, they just couldn't or didn't have time to, and they just missed the story. Now they're lost. Right.
Yeah. That's a pain. Well, moving along here, Clam Jameson 5941 says, Derek, what will it take to make Silent Hill 2 the game that you play for Halloween, assuming that we hit the 500 subscribers? They say, I'll be the first to throw in $5 to the pot if it means that you blow out my speakers with a terrified scream. Thanks, Clam. What would it take? Did we have any stipulations on that? Did it? What did I say? I mean, I guess maybe Silent Hill 2 would be the one if I mean, I'd have to get a copy of it, but I mean, I could probably afford that. I don't know. I mean, that's right, because I was thinking about doing Sweet Home, because that would be an RPG. But I mean, that would be thematic. But you know what? I wouldn't have to necessarily stream an RPG if I did it on the HP Pod channel. And that's, of course, where I would have to do it, because that's where people subscribed in order to see it, right? Like,
yes.
It doesn't have to be on the Super Derek channel. I can stream whatever I want.
Ooh. Yes, you can stream whatever you want. Doesn't have to be RPGs.
Oh, man. Oh, my gosh.
You know how nice it is to be freed from the RPG moniker?
I could start playing
I don't
Galgun.
know how I would know about that one.
I could play Galgun.
You can play Galgun. Oh my God, Derek's going to play Galgun.
Is that a horror game? Probably not.
It depends on who you ask.
Depends on your perspective. All
right. And apparently we've got a voicemail today,
we do.
Don't we?
We do actually have a voicemail. So let's go ahead and play that here.
Hey, Derek and Baku. This is Felix the Cat. I wanted to ask you guys about what you thought about How Long to Beat. I know it's a good place to see how long to beat a game, but as a data person for my career and personally, I have a lot of fun just reading people's reviews and seeing aggregated scores for games. Just wanted to know if you guys found any value in How Long to Beat other than the game times. Thanks for the show. I love the content. Keep going. Thanks.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank
very
you.
much there, Felix.
Interesting question.
So immediately when I heard this voicemail, my first thought was, they have reviews? I did not know that. Very surprised to learn this today. Today I learned HowLongToBeat.com has reviews.
I am laughing because while we were during the while I was writing the docket today, Derek messaged me. He's like, "Hey, did you know that we have a voicemail today?" I was like, "Okay, that's cool." And he's like, here's the question, so you can think about it, right?" And then he gave me the question with all the details, and then my first reaction to him was, "They have reviews."
Right? That is not something that I expected to learn today. But hey, that's cool.
Today I also learned that they have reviews.
So here's what I think is really great about. Well, I don't know. Did you have anything you wanted to say? Because I have a little tangent I could go on about How Long to Beat, but.
Well, first of all, I will admit that because I didn't even know that they had reviews, my primary uses for How Long to Beat are two. One, the more important one is because I stream and I like to plan out my schedule like for the month. I can look at How Long to Beat, look at the aggregate like time that people claim anyways, and get like a good sense of or how many streams it would take for me to do it myself,
Mhm.
and then plan out my schedule that way. Like, I'm not going to put 2 streams in for a game that I know or has been set to be like 90 hours, for example, right? But if the game says, especially from some of these indie games that maybe less people have played, but enough that there is some kind of how long to beat record. They say 12 hours, I'll be inclined to believe them. So I'll be like, okay, about 3 streams then, with
Yeah.
all the talking and stuff added in, it'll be like 3 streams. So I'll plan out 3 streams for the game.
Mhm.
And they're usually pretty on point. I tend to run just a bit longer because as a streamer, like you talk to chat, there's a bunch of things you do end up running longer.
Yeah.
But it's within like a margin of error that like I can accept. The other thing that I like using is just understanding how long the game is. Sometimes I will recommend a game to someone and I'll say, yeah, this game is like blank hours long about. And so it wouldn't just be my personal experience. It could
Mhm.
be like more of an aggregate data, right? Because I
Yeah.
tend to take longer to finish games because I stream my games. But here's this aggregate that I can refer to that's more like statistically relevant than just my personal experience.
Yeah.
So I would use that. But beyond that, honestly, I don't use it for anything else. So that's the end of that. I'd be happy to hear like what kind of insight I can gain from reading the reviews that I can't like anywhere else. I mean, there are probably a lot more reviews on Steam for that. So I don't know, Derek. What about you?
So one of the things I was thinking about that would be really nice
Mm-hmm.
is if it gave like some sort of API access. And maybe it does, and I just don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like
Yeah.
we could, from a data perspective, glean some really interesting information about RPGs, their duration, and how well received side content in general is.
Mm-hmm.
Because with a large enough data set, I feel like you could get some really interesting information about, like, sure, a game can be beaten in 30 hours as like the baseline, but it has 50 hours of side content based off of reported statistics, how many people are actually doing all of that content, and like determining like through that, is the side content any good? Like you can, I feel like you can get a pretty interesting information from people based off of that. It'd be nice to see some analysis being able to be performed that way. But I also feel like the How Long to Beat database consists of largely user submitted data, which comes with its own pitfalls for analysis.
Yeah.
Because of selection bias, essentially.
Yeah.
People who submit information to howlongtobeat.com are not a random selection of people who happen to play the game. They are the pros who feel like reporting their data. And so as a result, I think that games, I mean, and when I say pro, I mean like hobbyist gamers, not just, casual players usually. And so I think that as a result of that, the playtimes are going to gradually skew towards the lower end, as opposed to like a first time player of a game who, maybe it's their first video game ever, and they played, I don't know, Resident Evil 2 or something, and maybe it took them 100 hours to do it, but they're not going to go on to howlongtobeat.com and tell people about it. They don't even know the site exists because there's an inherent selection bias going on there.
That's right.
So I think that some information like that, if it could be pulled from Steam, would probably lend itself well. If it could be aggregated from like, PlayStation Network or Xbox, just kind of automatically with like maybe an opt-in or an opt-out somehow, that would be really useful for getting that kind of information. But at the end of the day, we already have enough issues with like big data collecting information from people without their knowledge and then using that to make, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I feel like there's information out there that could be determined that could be super interesting and useful. But I don't know.
feel like as long as it's not like PII or like,
Oh yeah,
even demographic data, like
yeah.
I don't care to give them demographic data. But if you want to see how long it took for me to play the game and to what percentage I've completed in the game, like
You know,
I would collect 3 pieces of information from
based
for
on trophy data,
Mhm.
honestly, just for
Yeah.
keeping track of like
Mhm.
who has what trophies, there already has to be some sort of opt out or something.
Yeah. I mean, I think your use case is like super interesting, right? And I would say, look, I would look at how many people play the game. I will look at to what percentage they complete the game,
Mhm.
how many people finish the game, like to like an ending, like a defined ending.
Yeah.
For RPGs anyways, that's relatively easy. And then how many people like, and then you can look at the percentage of like trophies, for example, like to determine like percentage of completion for like a full completion,
Yeah.
if you will. And like you can probably take that kind of data, and I think that's fine. Like if you want to use that kind of data to make a better game, because none of that talks about like demographic data. Like we're not looking at how old you are. We're not looking at your gender. You're not looking at, anything.
Yeah.
Certainly not PII. Like not even remotely close. Just gameplay data is, I think, it's fine. I'm
Yeah.
not mad about it.
All right. So that wraps up the comments. But we do have some super chats and
We
such that came
do.
in to respond to.
Yes.
We already talked about the first one from Still Alive. Thanks again,
Mhm.
Still Alive, who asked a question to Josh from Critical Games earlier. But we
Yes.
got another one here from Eagle Knight and then another one from Still Alive. So Eagle Knight says, I downloaded the demo for 8-Bit Adventures 2. They say that I'm loving these cutscenes. It's like I'm watching Ninja Gaiden on the NES.
Nice.
They-
Glad you're enjoying it, man.
yeah, definitely keep on playing. It's so fun, dude. Yeah, once you get I don't know how long the demo is, but once you get to the blind girl, she's my favorite character.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. Well, I mean, besides Charlie, of course.
I'll share a little background stuff with you guys, and that is like how we even like come to these like developers is we see their games and we're like super stoked about it. Then we have to reach out and like hope that they will like give us a time of day. So
Yeah.
we share the excitement and all the materials that you see. We wouldn't bring them on if we didn't like feel excitement ourselves with their work, and want to hear more about what they do ourselves. So maybe just a little bit selfish in that regards. Like, do you think we brought them in for you guys? No, we brought them in for us. We wanted to talk to them. We just didn't mind that you were listening in.
But at the same time, though, like I feel like I wouldn't want to do a podcast interview with somebody that like I don't know, somebody that I just didn't care about what they were doing. I wouldn't, that would, like, sure, it would be an episode, but like I wouldn't find enjoyment in it unless I was personally invested. And and in this case, yeah, we are.
You bet your bottom dollars we are excited. So yeah, absolutely. Love the cutscenes. Love that you're enjoying this, and love the fact that we're able to sort of get the news out there to you all. So fantastic. It sounds like we're on the right track in doing things.
All right. So next up from Still Alive, they asked us a simple question. They said, what are your favorite tactical RPGs?
Oh, too easy. Maybe harder for Derek. I don't know. Like, I don't know if Derek.
Here, I'll just say Final Fantasy Tactics real quick, just so I can take whatever your answer is.
Just so the pitchfork mark will get you.
There we go. No, that's not true though, because I actually never really played Final Fantasy Tactics. Gosh, which ones have I played? It's a very limited amount. So here, I'll tell you which tactical RPGs I've played, because it's a short list, and then you can guess which one's my favorite.
Okay.
All right. I played Suikoden Tactics. I've played Shining Force. and Summon Night 5.
Okay.
I think that's it.
I want to say,
And when I say I've played them, I mean I finished these specifically.
I want to say Summon Night, but I'm definitely not Suikoden, because I remember the Suikoden tactical RPG was like not that great, unless you like it. I don't know. Oh my god. It's okay. Well, you know what? It's 33% either way. So I'm gonna go with Shining Force.
You know, I think it is Shining Force.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, I think it's Shining Force because it is interesting. It has like some exploration outside of combat that is nice, where you can like go explore a town, and that appeals to me. Suikoden Tactics, though, I think is probably second place on this list.
Really?
Because yeah, I mean the story. I mean I didn't really care much for it, but I mean the gameplay was fun. The elemental system where they leave like an effect on the ground that corresponds or conflicts with elemental innate abilities of the various people on the field makes it very, very strategic, gives it an additional level where like it almost feels like I don't know. I think Splatoon has something kind of like that, doesn't it? I never played Splatoon, so I don't know. But I mean, but this was neat. And then I didn't mind Summon Night 5. It was localized by Vic Ireland of Working Designs, or who Gaijin Works at the time, and it was really super cool being reached out to by Vic in order to talk about the game. Really appreciated that. That was a high point in my early YouTube career, and I was like, Senpai noticed me. So that was super cool. But the only issue I have with Summon Night 5 is that it is the crossover episode of it was Summon Night 6. It was a crossover episode of all previous protagonists from 1 through 5, and I had no idea who the hell any of those people were. So it was still fine.
Show up.
But it was sort of difficult to really care as much as I probably would have liked to have. So yeah. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go with Shining Force on my favorite.
Okay. Better to leave them as like DLCs, I think. Like from what I think, like this Gaia did it right. They bring like previous protagonists back, but like it's mostly just DLC stuff. So like if you don't care for them, like it doesn't really impact you in the main story. Like you don't have to know who they are to matter. Like,
and I didn't have to know them either. Oh, the weird thing is that it didn't just have the protagonists. Apparently you can choose your protagonists in the Summon Night series, either male or female.
Right.
So
Oh yeah.
So it had crossovers of both male and female versions of the protagonists. So you had like
a lot of people.
Oh man, it was a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's too many people.
Yes.
For a Summon Night game. Oh man.
I mean, it was fun, but it was difficult to fully appreciate. So
yeah.
Just based on circumstance.
Maybe that's why we don't have any more Summon Night games.
Yeah, could be.
Ugh. Anyways, anywho, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed whichever I played back then. But anywho, yeah, easy question. All times, Tactics Ogre, easy answer. I've said it a million times. My favorite tactical RPG is Tactics Ogre. Even more than Final Fantasy Tactics.
I did enjoy what I played of it. Yeah. I did enjoy what I played of it of Reborn, but I never finished it, so I cannot claim it's my favorite, right?
You should go and finish
it. And on that note, gentlemen and ladies,
more games to finish.
I do believe that brings us to the point of the evening where I need to go run and hide my shame. So thank you all so much for hanging out with us today. Thanks for bearing with us through the myriad of technical difficulties that we've struggled through and overcome. And I hope to see you all in the next one. So if you have enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to give it a like, subscribe to HP Pod on the YouTube channel, and give us a like or positive review on whatever podcasting platform of choice. If you're one of those awesome fine folks listening to the audio only version, thank you for sticking with us, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, and I hope that this has refilled your hit points for the week.
Is that?
Have a good night, everybody.
Okay. Good night.